You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Cast, your ultimate answer to fandom, geekiness, and everything. As always, I am your host, Nathan, and we have another great episode lined up for you where we're going to talk about Zack Snyder's Justice League. So, I wanted to have this intro in here for a couple of reasons. It's a fairly recent episode, so normally I wouldn't record a separate intro and splice it in, but two things. First of all, I did say that we were caught up on movie podcasts now. And the thing is, Black Widow coming out, I believe, July 9th. I mean, I think that's the Friday anyway that comes out. By the time we watch it and we record the episode, there's only going to be 2 days for me to edit it if I was going to try to get it out on time for that to be our next movie episode. So I've decided that instead I'm going to take this Snyder Cut episode that I did have in sort of my back pocket and put that out as the episode in July, our movie episode in July. Black Widow will be coming in August, so it's still a much quicker turnaround time than it has been for movie episodes. Shang-Chi, though, will be released. We're going to have time to record that one and have time for editing sufficient so that we can get Shang-Chi out in September. So I'm hoping that with that and then getting Eternals out in November, we're finally getting to the point where we're going to get the movie episodes out fairly soon after the movie comes out. But I just wanted to put that out there, because I know I've been promising, movies are going to be caught up. Black Widow's more or less caught up. It's just going to be a few weeks after the movie comes out that we actually get the episode with the review on it. But the other thing that I wanted to mention is, as I've been listening to the audio from this episode, I'm afraid that, because my mic is a professional microphone, it's got settings on it, there are things that you can flick and turn and all sorts of stuff to get optimal sound quality. Apparently something was on the wrong setting when we recorded this one. I don't remember that being the case. I must have discovered it at some point later and flicked it and not realized that it had affected the Justice League episode. So I apologize. It sounds like I'm calling in from a telephone and not speaking on a professional microphone. And I'm just going to apologize right here. I'm sorry. It sounds like garbage. Everyone else sounds clear and wonderful. And here I am sounding like garbage on this episode. You can still hear me. You can still understand what I'm saying. The sound quality is just definitely poor. And I want to apologize for that up front. But yeah, otherwise, there's nothing really different this week versus last week, so I'm not going to do a long spiel on what's going on in my life right now. Maybe there'll be something next episode for me to talk more about. But yeah, instead, enjoy this episode, and now we join it already in progress.
Let's meet our cast for this week. So starting off, someone that hasn't been on the show for quite a while. He loves Black Panther, he loves 80s cartoons, and he loves the librarians, and that is my buddy Lucas. How are you doing, Lucas?
I'm doing good, Nathan. Thanks for having me, man.
Oh, no problem. So what's been going on for you lately?
Not much. A lot of work, man. A lot of work. But when I'm not working, I'm getting back to old series like Babylon 5, watch the new Invincible series, which I know eventually we'll have to cover on this show. Let's just say that Lex Luthor has every reason to be scared of Superman after seeing the Invincible series.
So I've heard a lot of good things, but I haven't seen it yet myself.
Yeah, you might want to get your mind, kind of right, because it's not going to be like any other superhero series that you've seen. Yeah, it's let's say as much. If you remember the old Mark Miller, Brian Hitch Ultimate series back in the day, it's on that level, but a little bit more so than that. But yeah, just got done watching for the 5th time Justice League, so I can get more of an insight into this. So it's going to be a very interesting conversation. But yeah, I got some new thoughts on it. since watching it.
Very cool. And with Babylon 5, are you watching the new like upscaled version that they've released?
Yes, sir. I like the redesign and the actual remastering, but there are certain scenes that need to be reincorporated into the remaster. If they could do that, then they'll be flawless.
Yeah.
There are certain scenes that are missing, specifically in seasons 1 and 2, that need to be put back in there.
Yeah, they have a lot of issues because Warner did not take care of the source material for Babylon 5. So I understand that even getting that version, took a lot of effort and was a labor of love, basically. So hopefully we'll get a true high definition, complete version of the series at some point, but somebody's going to spend the money to make that happen.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens, man. But like I said, just pretty much working and getting caught up on series and movies and just, trying to get, to my birthday, which will be in about starting tomorrow, 2 weeks. So it's going to be an interesting 2 weeks.
All right. Well, it's great to have you back on the show, Lucas.
Thank you, Nathan.
Yeah, no problem. And next up, hailing from 180, he's our resident Roman, and he usually has a drink on his hand, but I don't think he does today. And that is James. How are you doing, James?
I'm doing pretty good.
How's sobriety treating you, James?
Sobriety's miserable, man. Like when it's not your choice, it's miserable. I say that full well knowing like my aunt, and it always sounds terrible. Like we discussed this last time where it's like whenever I talk about this right now. So for those listening not in the know, just a simple like blood test came back and showed I had some high like liver enzyme levels. So my doctor is like, just wanted to make sure it's nothing serious. I need you to go no alcohol and nothing like no Tylenol, nothing hard on your liver for 2 months. And man, when I tell you what, they take that option away from you, like that's all I want to do. I'm just like, I just want to drink now. Like I don't know why.
Everything's a bourbon bottle. Yeah.
Yeah. So no, it's been good though. I am officially like 2.5 weeks out from getting the new blood test, and hopefully everything coming back good on that. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, it just feels wrong for you not to be drinking while you're doing the podcast. That's why it's like
it feels so weird because it's the thing I do not just for this, but when I was doing my own podcast, like it's like I always have a drink. Like I maybe depending on the length of the podcast, like I think when me and Sam did her Batman v Superman podcast, I was full of all kinds of rage, and so I drank quite a bit, and I don't.
Yeah, the
know.
tales of that podcast are legendary. I mean, you and Sam have both spun the tales of the 4 hours of just rage.
Oh yeah,
of that movie.
I remember talking about it. I'm not entirely sure of all the things I said, but they're out there on the internet now. So.
All right. Well, anything good going on for you?
I mean, work's good. I mean, I'm employed, so that's always nice. And hopefully some new things in the works. It's kind of a slower season right now for games, just with the new consoles that have come out. Not a lot of great stuff out for the new consoles yet, but lots of oldies to go back to. The new Mass Effect Legendary Edition coming out in May. So I'm looking forward to playing that, and hopefully right around that time, getting right back into hopefully some writing for another friend of mine, and then hopefully eventually back into some podcasting. I met some people from Riot Games recently that I play Destiny with, and they're all great people, and they've all shown interest in like, yeah, we'd love to come on and like talk video games. I was like, we don't have to talk Riot stuff, and they're like, no, that'd be great if we don't talk Riot stuff. That'd be fantastic. So pretty excited.
Nice. Yeah, I sometimes get the bug where I'm like, if I had the time to do like 7 different podcasts,
I know, right?
I would love to do like a retro gaming podcast and talk about, like a lot of Atari and NES and SNES stuff. But yeah, that's between this and Time Streams and now Legendary Forces, I'm like, that's already 3 podcasts. It's like, I don't think there's anything left of me to give. So, yeah. But it's good to have you back on the show, James.
Always good to be back.
All right. And finally, Uh, he is our resident Conan expert and anti-chalker, and that is Mark Finn.
Nathan, buddy.
How are you doing, Mark?
I'm wearing my Marvel shirt just in case I want to troll somebody on the internet, since we're going to be talking about the Justice League. Actually,
Nice.
my Batman shirt is DOA, so it was either this or a shirt about Ireland. And
I think James is wearing your Batman shirt.
oh, he's not, but that's a cool shirt. So yes, absolutely. How are you doing, bud?
I'm doing all right, Mark. So yesterday I had a lot of laughs because your rage against the term chonker was quite palpable, and I could feel it coming through the internet.
It just makes it makes my monkey center of my brain just throb. I want to pick up a rock and like hit something every time I see that word zipping around the blogosphere like pachinko balls. I hate it. Ugh. We're better than this. There's good language. There's words we don't use. There's words that we've just stopped using, like defenestrate. Nobody uses defenestrate anymore. Why not? A lot of people need to be thrown out of a window. I'm saying.
Yeah,
Probably
I tried to bring bunk back when I was in high school.
Bring what?
Bunk.
Bunk?
Nobody uses the word bunk.
Yeah, like this is a load of bunk. Yeah. Like the word chunk is a load of bunk. Yeah. See, there's a lot of things you can do there, and I just I try real hard to be positive. On my wall, I try real hard to not throw out the negative too much, but every once in a while, it boils over, and I just have to vent my spleen. And in this case, it just offends me as a writer that word is emphasizing itself for me. Like I don't, maybe I just want to say chunk. Maybe I don't want to say chunk.
That's okay. I think I understand you, because when all the baby Yoda memes were going around talking about giving him some chicky nuggies, that did the same thing to me. Like chicky nobody talks like that. That sort of faux baby talk. It's like, no, that's not like real baby talk.
That's right. We're a nation of man children anyways. Let's not infantilization of our language. Does not need to be a thing on top of that. We're sliding down a greased fire pole straight to hell, and and we'll land on a giant chunky pile of chicky niggies, and it'll just be the worst thing ever. So this is and then that's when the cracks in the sky open up and the parademons come out, because we are done. And Darkseid's going to look around and go, on second thought, I've changed my mind, and go back in the boom tube.
So how are you doing in general, Mark?
Oh, I'm a mass of broken glass and rage. I just, I can't get uncalm. But I had a breakthrough today, Nathan. I was doing my daily pace around the house, cursing God and punching the air, and I realized that I have a tracker now on me. I could be walking outside, and so I hit outside walk and went around the block and spent about 15 minutes just kind of pit bulling my way, like that. And then I went upstairs and I got back up, and the air conditioning was on. I just felt a lot better. And I think, so instead of cheeseburgers now, I will replace my hugs needed with a brisk walk.
If that works for you, that's great.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to work, but it worked today, so we'll give it a try tomorrow. As a general rule, I tend to think that exercise should only be in case of an emergency, but I guess this technically is an emergency.
Yeah,
It's funny.
OR. because you're talking about cheeseburgers, and I'm like, oh my God, like a month ago, I was like, I haven't had any fast food in like a year. And so I like went out and got like some Wendy's burgers and brought them home. And I was like, oh my God, this is so great because, I haven't had a burger in so long. So yeah.
My world is cauliflower and broccoli, brother. I can't. That's all I eat right now. It's just the worst thing ever. I'm in hell, basically. I'm really. This is hell. I got the dog with me, and that's about it. So great. That's my journey. This is my thing now.
Well, it's good to have you back on the show, Mark.
Oh, it's always fun to be here.
Well, that's good. It's good to take you out of hell and dust you off a little bit before
There you
putting you
go.
back. Yeah.
Keep me off the corner singing doo-wop. Out of the pool halls. No strippers and cocaine for me, man. I'm just I'm doing podcasts, Ma. I swear to God.
Oh man. Well, so normally we'd have our 5-minute controversy here, but I felt like the topic that we're talking about is controversial enough as it is. So we don't need a 5-minute controversy for this episode. So we're just going to take a break for a moment for a promo from another fine podcast, and then we'll get back to talking about Justice League, the Snyder Cut.
The kid and I have flown from one side of the galaxy to the other. We've been listening to a lot of strange podcasts, but the Monster Sci-Fi Show stands above the rest. Isn't that right, Grogu? I still hate that name.
The Monster Sci-Fi Show is part of the ESO network. It's sci-fi from a certain point of view.
Welcome to Dr. Geek's Laboratory.
Hello everyone, Dr. Geek here with a shout out to all the scientists who worked tirelessly to bring a COVID-19 vaccine into reality. Let's face it, creating something of this magnitude is a miracle worthy of Dr. McCoy himself. And now, Dr. Geek needs you to do your part. Remember, each shot is one small step back to normal, one giant leap to putting the pandemic behind us. We can do this. For more information, visit vaccines.gov to find your nearest provider.
We are going to talk about the Snyder Cut of Justice League. So just really quick, I just want to poll everybody about your thoughts on before we talk about the Snyder Cut, I want to know what you thought of the theatrical cut of Justice League. So we'll start with you, James. What did you think of the theatrical one?
I tried to forget it. No, it wasn't that terrible. I always make it out like it was. It wasn't good, like that's for sure. Like that's what I know. It was really clear to me after watching it twice, I might say. God, I don't know why I did that twice in theaters. All because I went and watched it on my own, and then Sam was just like, I'm gonna go watch it, and I was like, I feel like I should be there to hold your hand or something so that we can podcast about it later, because you're gonna hate it.
See, I thought it was going to be something like with me with the Phantom Menace, and I saw it 3 times because I tried to find the thing that was good. I was like, it's Star Wars, so it must be good. So something is wrong with me.
Yeah.
So I watched it 3 times trying to figure out why there was something wrong with me that I didn't like it, and I never found it. So
well, and what's funny is what helped me find moments of the original theatrical cut that I actually kind of liked a little bit and appreciated. Was the lack of some of those scenes in the Snyder cut. And I was like, oh, that wasn't Snyder material. okay. So, but yeah, mostly it was just so clear that two directors had worked on this,
Mhm.
and it felt really clunky. Like
Right.
nothing seemed to smooth together.
And there were certain things that just felt so wrong, like Batman going, ooh, ooh, ouch, like when he's on the ground or whatever, that was obviously a Whedon inclusion. That was just like, I get there, like, oh, that hurts, the pain, something like that. Like, that's so not Batman. Like, that, like, really, like, bothered me, because it's like, it's obviously a Whedon inclusion. That and the, like Clark saying to Bruce after Bruce has bought the house for his mom, he's like, I thought you didn't like me. And Bruce says, like, I don't not like you. And I'm like, again, it's such an obvious Whedon inclusion. And by the way, I mean, spoilers for when we get to I don't hate the theatrical version, but those two things, the Batman, I thought, got the worst treatment from Whedon, because he wanted to make Batman funny. And to me, that was like, no, that's not the way to make him funny. Even
That's a
if you
different
wanted to make him
genre
funny.
entirely.
Right. Right. So that awkward stuff I didn't like with Batman. But anyway, I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're
You have
fine.
more to add?
Not really. That pretty much sums it up for me.
All right. Mark?
I thought it was scrambled eggs. I think
I like scrambled eggs.
Yeah, but not when it's two different movies. The early buzz was that the Snyder movie was going to be 3.5 hours long, and that Warner wanted him to cut it down. And as soon as I heard that, I thought, okay, well, here we go. Yeah, I didn't realize until, this one, just how much of it got removed in the theatrical version. And what James said, it was real obvious. There's just stuff looks papered over. It looks like, it looks tacked on. I, at the time, appreciated what they tried to do, coming off of the Batman Superman movie, but now that I thought this, I gave him points for the effort. I said, good shot. It was worth a try. But I thought then, what I thought now is that Warner wanted to push 5 movies into one. They wanted to skip all of the work and go straight to the Justice League, when, if they were going to do what Marvel did, they should have done what Marvel did. And instead, we got what we got. And it's, whatever I might take issue with regarding Snyder and his interpretation of certain characters, I don't blame him anymore for this. Now that all this stuff about Warner has come out behind the scenes, it's not any, and unfortunately, it's standard operating procedure for them. It's not anything they haven't done before, and that you haven't heard me yell about on past podcasts. So,
right,
yeah.
All right, Lucas.
Yeah, I think we all have a consensus about our views about the Justice League movie. The way I look at it is this: I think that Warner, as much as they were trying to put this image of, no, we're going to try to do our own thing and not try to be like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, was still competing with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And so they put the cart before the horse. We never should have gotten a Batman v Superman movie that soon. Each character should have had their own standalone movie. Maybe a sequel, and then we got a Batman v Superman movie, and then we go on to Justice League. But they weren't willing to put the time and the effort into that. And so it showed, and what it showed is this. It showed that they wanted to make Avengers 2.0, but for the DC universe. Because like you said, Nathan, they should not have been making Bruce Wayne Tony Stark 2.0. And when you look at it, that's what you got. You got him coming to see Flash. I mean, it's no different than at the end of Incredible Hulk, where Tony is talking to, Thunderbolt Ross about, yeah, we got a new team we're starting up. It's on that level, and it's like, it's cringeworthy, because as much as they're similar between Batman and Iron Man, they are absolutely different personality-wise. And so I appreciate what the Snyder film is that they just literally chucked all that away. Like all the unnecessary humor and what have you, it just straight into Ragnarok. So let's go. And that's what I appreciate about it the most. But it's hard for me to go back to the Justice League movie, not just even because of what I found out after the fact about what happened with Ray Fisher and Joss Whedon, how he is. And here's the thing is that what gets me is this, and it gets me with any type of allegations. You knew these knuckleheads were like this before. What took you so long for you to actually get off your butts and make an issue about it now? Don't wait till the Me Too movement comes into full effect for you just to say, oh yeah, this has been going on for, at least since Buffy. Deal with it at the time, because then your argument for me is like, well, what was the end game at the end? And there's a lot of blame to go around with Warner, with Whedon, and even with how everything was approached. But as far as where Justice League, the theatrical cut, it's hard for me to go back to. In fact, after watching this one, this is for me my definitive Justice League. And I know we're not going to get anything else afterwards, and I'm kind of okay with it because Paige has got her thing that she's planning, as well as the other directors. But this would have been interesting. But at the same time, plans change. And I think that with Snyder, he was able to say, you know what? I'm just going to do this. I'm going to put my own money into it. Don't worry about it. I'm going to try to fix this because this is a legacy thing for Snyder. He already realized he's on the same plateau now with Michael Bay. And that's sad. But you got two directors who, they could do action movies, but for some reason there is a divide with them. And it mostly comes down to interpretation of characters. But that's pretty much my thoughts on the matter. It's, for me, if I was to think about it, I'd say I give Justice League maybe a C, and that's being generous. And I give Justice League itself B+, A-. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, for me, coming into it, I was not a fan of Man of Steel, and I was not a fan of Batman v Superman. To me, the best part of Batman v Superman was Wonder Woman, which was funny when it was the movie called Batman v Superman, and then they had, that wonderful Wonder Woman movie just before Justice League came out. And it was so clearly better than what had come before out of DC. And so I went into Justice League, the theatrical version, and was pretty pleased with it because, in my mind at least, it was better than everything but Wonder Woman that DC had come out with since, they had started up with this new continuity with Man of Steel. And, again, I'm talking about just the work itself because, of course, things have come out about Whedon and how he did things on set and whatever. And obviously DC just cared about the fact that he was the guy who directed the 2 Avengers movies. That's what they saw. They saw this guy made 2 hugely successful movies for Marvel. We want that guy. If, Zack Snyder bowed out because his kid committed suicide, totally legitimate reason for him to back out of the movie. And, then we were bringing this guy in to do the sub work. And, he was willing to make the cuts and everything that Snyder, wasn't, but then he wanted to, put his own stuff in there too. And, and the thing that I think, to me, that's still better about the theatrical version, the thing that I really appreciated in the movie theater, was that they made Henry Cavill's Superman likable. They did a lot of work to make him a very likable character. He smiles. He's interested in people. He saves people. All of that stuff that makes you go like, yeah, this guy could really be like Superman, like like a version of Superman that's like what we think of in pop culture. As much as the Snyder cut puts back in and does differently or whatever, we still have the very gray Superman. The very dark Superman, the brooding Superman is back. In that version, and that's sort of Snyder's vision of Superman. So I think there's good and bad in the theatrical cut. Like I said, I don't like how Batman's treated in it at all. Like, I felt really wrong. The Flash is a lot more annoying in the Whedon version than in the Snyder cut version. But I appreciated it at the time, and I thought that it was really good at the time. And there's a lot of interesting stuff that the Snyder cut does that's different. But I think on an emotional level, I still think Whedon is better at connecting with audiences than Zack Snyder is, who's more interested in visuals than with emotional connections. So Mark, you're pointing at me and looking weird. So like,
okay,
rebuttal.
Well, just this. You know, I'm with you regarding Snyder's take on Superman, but what I didn't like about the theatrical Justice League was the fact that there was such an abrupt shift. All of a sudden, he gets happy with a weird CG, not a mustache there, and I now I realize why. It took me a while to sort of put it all together. Snyder didn't do a 1980s or even a 1990s Superman because that wasn't the Superman Snyder wanted to do, and that is. You know, it's weird that they gave him that space to do that, but if you treat the three movies as a sort of project like Kingdom Come or anything else like that, then what you have is a Superman story where he doesn't get those connections, and that's a take. It's a valid take on Superman. It's not a take that I think. Clearly it was a mistake because it didn't resonate with a lot of people, and I don't think a lot of people got what he was trying to do. But with this new cut in place, there is a much more it's a seamless progression. And when he comes back different, and it's weird that you're right. This Superman in the theatrical cut was jovial, but tonally he's better in the Snyder cut because there's just a through line on those three projects, especially if you take the extended version of Batman versus Superman, which I honestly think everybody should just watch that instead.
No, I agree. I did watch it before I watched the Snyder Cut. I had not had access to it before without paying for the DVD, and I wasn't going to pay for the DVD or Blu-ray. I wasn't going to pay for that for a extended version of a movie I didn't like. But since I was already paying for HBO Max for a month, I was like, I'm gonna watch the extended version of BVS also. And
it holds up. I like it better. And
it's definitely better.
And so this is the deal. They've already said that Snyder's universe, the Snyderverse is done. They're going to move on to something else. And this is the thing about Warner Brothers. This is what they've always done. There've been 8 different Superman movies or movie things since the 1940s, 13 animated series, or 20, depending on how you want to count it and break them out. There's been a Superman for just about every decade. And I said this in one of my giant butt-numbing articles that I wrote on my blog, Mark the Aging Hipster at blogspot.net, that we get the Superman we deserve. Every generation gets their Superman, like it or not. And Snyder's version of Superman, like it or not, is the 21st century Superman.
See, all right, so my take is slightly different. Is that obviously if you're setting up, like, it's clear what Justice League 2, where it was going from the Snyder Cut, but if you're going to say, okay, we're going to ignore Justice League 2, like the theatrical cut did, like it was basically like, we're just going to ignore everything that Snyder wanted to do with Justice League 2, and we're going to cut out all the stuff setting that up. Then there's an idea of Superman dies, he's reborn, and now, like, he's cast off all the stuff that was dragging him down, in his past and whatever. So there's this idea of rebirth, and he's reborn as, like, a more lighthearted person. And so that's how I took that. I thought that was the subtext. We were going for, that kind of a take on Superman.
And so, for all the people right now who are hurrahing the Lois and Superman show with Tyler, Tyler Hoechlin.
Oh, is it Oakland? Is how you pronounce it? Okay,
I don't know how to pronounce that last name. It does not look. It doesn't look like a name I can say. Hoagland, Tyler Hoagland. I'm gonna have to work on that, Lucas. I'm sorry.
It's fine, buddy. Took me a while too.
It's a great show, but one of the subplots is a guy chasing this Superman down because the Superman in his world destroyed everything.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He's the, it looks an awful lot like what Snyder was doing in his show.
Mm-hmm.
So why does that show get the pass and Snyder gets
because that's not the Superman we're following. He exists in the in a multiverse of Superman.
This notion that they've never done a bad Superman.
Oh no! Even the animated show in the '90s had an episode with an alternate Earth with a black costume Superman who was he wasn't evil, but he was like a vigilante. Like he just killed criminals. Like you break the law, you're done. You know,
Justice Lord Superman. Yeah, Justice Lord Superman.
Yeah, we've had Injustice Leagues and Crime Syndicate stories since the '60s.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. None of this is new. Yeah, it's just I think maybe people were desperate for something happy, and that wasn't what they wanted to sell. But man, give them a minute. I guarantee you, in 5 years, when our goldfish brain resets for pop culture, and everybody's like, it'd be great as a Superman movie, they're going to be like, oh yeah, here's Superman. This Superman is, and they're going to figure out what their new take on Superman is, and we'll get 3 of those movies, and we'll either like them or not.
I agree, Mark.
Yeah,
I agree, Mark.
I mean, right. So now you're going to make me play devil's advocate again, Mark, because as someone who's not a big fan of the Snyder Vision, part of the problem is, other than the Flash, they're all dark, brooding characters. They're all like Aquaman, Wonder Woman. They're all dark, brooding characters. And I like having a Justice League with a lot of like range, right? Like, or an Avengers or whatever super team. I like to be a spectrum. So Batman being a dark, brooding character is great. And I really love Ben Affleck as Batman. For all the haters who have been spitting on him since he was cast before they even saw 1 inch of footage, one of the best things that has come out of DC over the last few years with all their movies and everything was Ben Affleck as Batman. The idea of this older Batman who's been doing this for so long and then suddenly confronted with the existence of aliens and metahumans, that is a very fascinating take. That is really, really cool because he was already established. He already knew how to handle everything that he had ever encountered. And then one day Kryptonians are blowing up the Earth and he loses it. And I think that's the most fascinating part of BVS.
I think that's the linchpin in the story that he wanted to tell. I really do. But this is the thing about DC fans. They've never, ever gotten anything right. They are a superstitious and cowardly lot, and always have been. Ever since I'm old, I'm roughly 7,000 years old compared to you, Nathan. I remember vividly working at my comic shop in 1988 and having people just freak the hell out that Mr. Mom was going to be Batman. I mean, come on, Mr. Mom and Jack Nicholson. Well, that's probably pretty good. But Mr. Mom, come on, he's not going to be Batman. Are you kidding me? That movie turned everything around. I mean, 9 days after that movie came out, there was a slew of articles in newspapers and on television. Batmania has come back, and then they show some idiot getting a Batman symbol tattooed on his arm, and go, I just love the character, man. I just love him. He's great. He's a trip. Look at that right there. And so all of a sudden it's like, no, we liked Michael Keaton all along. What we really don't like is this Christian Bale guy. He's not going to get it right.
Oh, see, I don't remember a backlash against Bale, but I remember it against Heath Ledger as the Joker.
They're never right.
Mm.
They're never right. If I ever hear of a group of DC fans get something right out of the gate, and then the movie comes out and they were right all along, I'll eat my hat. They are 0 for 20 for all of that. So typically, if anybody says, "Oh, this is going to suck," Robert Pattinson, he's going to be a terrible man. I'm like, I can't wait. I can't wait, because if you hate it, I guarantee it's going to be awesome. There's no way you're right about this, because you haven't been right about anything else since the beginning of it all. So, ha ha.
All right, so I think we've gotten our feelings about the Justice League movie that came out in theaters out of the way here, including a lot of baggage from before that. And let's talk about the Snyder Cut. Let's all take something that we really like that was brought back into the Snyder Cut and talk about it for a bit. So, James, because I think you're probably the one that's the most down on it out of all of us. What did you like about the Snyder Cut?
Oh, what did I like?
Something that you felt was improved from the theatrical cut.
You know, that's the thing. It's like, I think I've had a lot of time to think about the movies, like the Snyder Cut, since watching it. Because again, my best friend, rabid Superman fan, like loves Man of Steel, loves BVS, loves this cut. They're masterful. Snyder, in his eyes, is the greatest cinematographer to have ever lived. Like, that's his take on it. So I was all like, I watched it. I was at work. I sent him a text and I was like, hey man, watched it. Few quick notes. I can't, because I can't talk while I'm at work, but a few quick notes while I'm on my break. This is my general thought of it. And then he goes, okay, like no fight, nothing. He just gave me nothing. And I was like, really? You're the guy who's so fervently, like, we argue like cats and dogs. And he just gave me nothing. So, I mean, for me, honestly, I think the best thing to come out of the Snyder Cut for me was the expansion of Cyborg, like really delving more into the character, really showing a lot more of, I think, that struggle for him, as far as like what's happened to him, and why like this is such an alien thing, not just like what it is, but just that this is so foreign for him to go from, I'm a pro, I was looking at, like a college career and probably going pro for football and all of that. It's just gone. It's just gone. And he's clearly a smart guy. Like, we get that little cut of it where it's just like, like, I know that your kid's trying to get a scholarship and everything, but, really like going in, hacking the system and adjusting his grades. And I was like, oh, that's so Ferris Bueller. Good for him.
Yeah, no, and I would agree that Cyborg was the character that was done the worst by the theatrical cut. I mean, it's clear because like he was like kind of like an also Cyborg. Like, it's like we have these other characters and then also Cyborg. Like, he was barely there. So yeah,
well, and so much
more.
like using him to the extent that they did in the original cut, it was like, why is Batman here? Why is he here? I mean, I know he's got lots of money, but really, Cyborg's doing everything that Batman would normally do. Like, why?
I hate that line. It's in both versions, and I hate that. What's your superpower? I'm rich. And again, it doesn't disservice to Batman, but anyway.
Made me violently upset the second
My
time.
My wife gets so mad when she hears that too. She's a bigger Batman fan than I am, and
I started screaming because my wife was watching with me, and I started screaming. I was like, no, he's the greatest detective, the greatest. Why is this so hard?
Yeah. But all right, yes, no, I agree with you. I think, yeah, how Cyborg was treated way better in the Snyder Cut, and again, we're getting a lot of behind the scenes information about what was going on there, and
yeah.
That's the best time. I'm not even going to get into it because, it's not really the place here to talk about it. But yeah.
I disagree. I think the real villain in this whole thing is Warner Brothers. Yeah. I think they're the bad guys. It wasn't Darkseid and Steppenwolf. It was Warner and Joss Whedon.
Well, because it wasn't only just cutting scenes for him. It was even doing stuff like, we're going to make you a caricature and make you go booyah, and that's your catchphrase and stuff like that. And it's just like, oh.
Well,
really? In 2017, we're doing this?
The thing that's the Cyborg is clearly an integral part of the original plot. Mm-hmm. And when you take that out, then you remove a lot of beats that get us to, a movie that builds and has a crescendo and has a thing to it. And what you really appreciate when you watch the Snyder Cut is the hatchet job Whedon did on the movie. I mean, it's a Frankenstein. What he's
he
done
on
with it.
person. Yeah, Mark, he unpersoned Cyborg in this movie, in his version of the movie. He pretty much, I mean, you talking about being neutered.
Yeah.
And I'll never forgive Whedon for that, because after this, I'm saying this was Cyborg's origin movie. Forget about everything else about the lead up to Dark Side. This was a story about a young man who was brought back to life unwillingly by his father because of that, horrible tragedy. He had technology, he did it. But his dad, in the end, was possibly a bigger hero in this whole thing, because he said, yes, I know I wasn't there for you, but I brought you back to life. I brought you into this world twice, and you have a responsibility, and you can continue to not like me, whatever, but these are my instructions and my advice for you. And it made his character so much richer. And the fact that our absolute spite, did what he did. Yeah. I mean, it's hard. I mean, I love Firefly and I love Angel, and there's parts of Buffy I love, but it's hard for me to go back and watch that stuff, knowing exactly what happened. And you cannot have that much beef for a person that you just decide to, I direct this movie. I'm just going to make you pretty much, part of the jokes. Because really, there were 3 Jokers, actually 4, if you think about it, in the Whedon cut. There was Batman, trying to be Tony Stark like. That's why you say, I'm rich. No, you're not. He's the best detective, pretty much the best ninja of the damn DC universe. But I'm rich. That's a Tony Stark line. Then you make, Flash Spider-Man 2.0. Mm-hmm. You make Cyborg pretty much a buffoon, or not Cyborg. You make Cyborg a buffoon, and then you pretty much make, I don't even want to talk about, C-worthy, Thor, which is what Aquaman was. It's like he said, everything that I thought would work in the old Avenger movie, I'm just going to apply it to Justice League, and we're going to make gangbusters. You assumed, Josh, and you know what happens when you assume. And so that's why I appreciate the Snyder Cut so much more than that, because Snyder went there thinking, I'm doing an epic tale. I know there are people who don't like the slow-mo. I know people don't think I understand the character, but you guys gotta understand this. And I wanted to interject earlier, but this is a Superman, just like any other team. All these characters are at the beginning. When you look at their original incarnation, they were not likable people. When you look at the 1938 Superman, this is a guy who pretty much held old Metropolis hostage because of traffic violations. I mean, this is the Superman he was bringing, and I understand we're never going to get the Christopher Reeve Superman. And I know for a lot of us, including myself, that is a definitive Superman. But I see what they're doing. It's everything from the original impetus as well as Earth One, and why I say Earth One, I'm talking about the early 2000s book, Earth One characters. And if you look at that, what happened with Earth One Superman? When they found out he had these abilities, they threw him pretty much into a basement. They pretty much, and that's why his father would say, if you use your abilities, you got to watch it, because if they do, this is what happens to you. This is why you're not going to get that smiley Superman. I mean, this is a post 9/11 Superman where, government overreach, and if you got certain abilities, it's not going to go the way that you thought it was. It's not going to be, they're going to greet you with open arms. They're going to be saying, you're a threat.
Yeah.
And that messes up your psychology. And so for me, I completely understood Henry Cavill's. So I understand your issues, Nathan. I do. Because like I said, me and you, we're the same age where we grew up with the Christopher Reeve Superman, but this was never going to be the Superman we got. And so we just have to deal with it. And some people can watch it, some people can't.
Right. And the thing is if they don't want that Superman, there's 7 other projects you can go get.
Well, and frankly, the Hetchland Superman. is the Superman that I want. I mean, like
I think you mean Hoagland.
Or Hoagland, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I've heard several different people pronounce his last name different ways. So yeah, the Hoagland Superman is exactly what I want, because that is the version that is the optimistic Superman. Whereas I feel like they've put a little bit of a modern spin on him. He doesn't feel campy at all. But, you know, he is more of that hopeful, optimistic Superman that I like. So
he's really got his Christopher Reeve impression down pat. He sounds just like him. It's weird. So the thing that I liked, the thing that really stood out for me was that opening sequence with the Amazons. That thing was, you know, anybody that says he can't shoot action needs to shut up, because I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding watching that chase happen, and all of those Amazons doing Amazon all at once was absolutely incredible. Of course, I didn't get enough Wonder Woman, you know, anyways, because and so to have that, and then we go to Gal Gadot's hostage situation scene, and oh the bullets she knocked out of the air.
You know, people complain about Snyder's slow motion, but my God, the speed that Wonder Woman was moving in that scene, I was like, holy crap! You know, like that was so amazing watching her just zooming around that room, doing all the crap that she was doing. I was like, this is amazing.
It was so cool. It's funny that they sped her up and slowed Barry Allen down.
Right.
But I think again, I think that was an intentional choice. That stuff to me was I mean, and to have the movie really kind of start with that's the first big set piece and action sequence, and I was in after that. I was like, all right, I don't know where we're going, but I want to go there with them doing that. So, you know, what's not to like about that? It's that was smart, and I still don't think he should have directed Watchmen. I don't think anybody should have directed Watchmen, for what that's worth. I don't think Watchmen should have been made. But yeah, I think Snyder was damned if he did and damned if he didn't. And I don't think I think in his attempting to be slavish to the material, he actually made the wrong call. I think he would have been better served taking the series and making a movie out of it, or actually, and now that I see again what he's capable of, making a miniseries. He should have done it as a miniseries, because he would have had all this room to work, and then he wouldn't have had to have been like tied down into the needle drops that he did, because that was in the comics. There was just it didn't work. For me, it didn't work. And the thing is had he not done that, it splits the room. Half the people were like, oh, it was great because it was so slavish. And the other people were like, yeah, it sucked because it was slavish. If he'd have changed it up, the other people would have gone, I hate that he made changes. And the other person would have gone, oh, yeah, no, it's great. It works so much better as a movie this way. So
got a question for you, Mark. Did you like the change between the Squid Invasion to being Ozymandias setting up Dr. Manhattan?
I thought that it was probably necessary for what we would have, I don't know that you could have sold a space squid even back then, post, was it 2010, 11, 2009? We'd had 9 years of superhero movies and Blade, and I just don't know that would have been enough to get a space squid out. And the thing is for that space squid thing to make sense, you got to know that it's fake. You have to, spoilers, internet. You have to know that it's bioengineered. You have to, and the only way to get that in is to, show, even if it's just in a movie, what takes like 15 pages of comics can be 30 seconds, right? It's one scene. So that's why I think a limited series would have worked. He could have done a 6-parter on HBO and knocked it out of the park. But when you try to take something that complex and put it into 2 hours and 12 minutes, shit's going to get lost.
Here's the thing. Society has changed so much just in the 4 years since the Justice League theatrical movie, because streaming services were still a small, somewhat niche thing. Like Netflix was doing really well, but I mean, HBO Max might have existed, but it wasn't the powerhouse that it is now. And their Disney Plus, didn't exist, like all these ones that have proliferated since then. So that was the thing. The studios weren't thinking in terms of, hey, we could do this epic mini series with a movie budget, but it's, 4.5 hours long or whatever. They're thinking it's got to be a 2.5 or 2 hour movie, which is why even if Zack Snyder hadn't stepped aside for Justice League, the movie that we got in 2017 would not have been the movie that we got on HBO Max now, because the studio would have made him cut it. It would have been different from the one we got with Whedon, but it would not have been the movie we got that's 4.5 hours long on HBO Max.
But it should have been 4 movies minimum. We should have gotten a Cyborg movie, a Flash movie, a Batman versus Superman movie, an Aquaman movie. We should have gotten. If they wanted to do what Marvel did, they should have done what Marvel did. You can't skip steps. You don't start Monopoly on free parking.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, and I'm sorry if I step on your toes, Lucas, because I know you haven't gone yet with what you really liked about the Snyder Cut. But
that's fine, man.
One of the things that amazed me about it, though, was how well he did at setting up all these movies. Like, even though we've already had Aquaman, he was setting up the Aquaman movie in there. He was setting up Wonder Woman 3 in there, because that's what we're going to get. Diana goes back to Themyscira in Wonder Woman 3. He's setting up Wonder Woman 3 in that movie. He's setting up the standalone Affleck Batman, which is now not going to happen, but he's setting that up in that movie. He's setting up Justice League 2. And it's all seamlessly part of the movie that he's doing. But he's also looking to the future of what they were trying to do. If that was going to be the spin-off point, or Cyborg movie was being set up in that movie. Flash probably wasn't being set up that well other than they introduce him, but he's probably the only one his movie wasn't really being set up all that well other than they introduced Iris and they introduced
But the Flash has the same beats as the TV show.
Right.
There you go.
I mean, begging the question of, why you just didn't get Grant Gustin, but whatever. I think
that would have created that tonal issue that you were talking about with Superman in the theatrical version, though, because the Barry Allen of the TV doesn't fit into a Snyder universe.
No, but Ezra
Miller.
Thank you, Ezra Miller. He's definitely playing Wally West. I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's Wally by way of Barry, right? Yeah, totally. So
yeah. But yeah, no, I found it interesting, though, Mark, what you said was that people say, like, I don't know that I've ever heard anyone say that Snyder's not good at action, but to me, that's the thing he excels at. That is like the thing that he really, I mentioned, I don't think he does well with like the human element and emotions, but I think that for action, he's amazing. And that Wonder Woman scene was a great example of amazing action. That was just, wow. Wow. That's all I can say about that.
What she did to that team was absolutely justifiably brutal, especially the last guy at the end. And I mean, I love the setups. Like, you're seeing people who are going to be integral throughout the entire series that Snyder had. I mean, the reason why she went to that girl and said, "Are you okay, princess?" I'm looking at this, but is that going to be Wonder Girl? I'm looking at, say, Barry and, Iris. They even show Iris in the theatrical cut. I don't like how they showed the whole scene with Iris. I mean, the thing that I have issues with concerns Snyder at the end of the day is, this is not the human element. It's the fact of, and my friend really said this right, he said that he's a music video director, and damn it, were they right? Because he will introduce music that you're like saying, "Huh, okay," but is that really needed? Like, is the girls, by the lake when Aquaman's going in there, is that really needed? Yes, they're lovelorn, they're whatever, but is that absolutely needed? You could just cut like 5 minutes just on that scene alone.
That's yes.
And to that
Don't get me
point,
wrong, I get it. Girls got, hard on, hot, for the boy, but come on. I mean, do I have to see that? Like, what's the purpose of this?
Yeah, to that point, although it was cool from a fanboy perspective to have Martian Manhunter in the movie, he added nothing to the movie. Like, the two scenes that he's in, it's other than the fact that they're saying, like, oh, in Justice League 2, this is going to be a new character. Like, he shows up at Bruce's house just to say, we're going to have to do something sometime later, and then he leaves. And it's just like, what? Why is that?
It's a general. It's probably a general. It's a general from, the Man Steel and, Batman v Superman. That's Martian Manhunter. He's been, parading as him since, Man Steel. But you're right, Nathan. Did we really have to have him or not? Because you talk about uniting the 7. Yeah, I saw 6. So he's the 7th. But he's not united because they don't even know he exists until Bruce sees him.
Did you guys, James? You're a comics reader, right? Or are you a movie guy? No, I don't know.
6 of one, half dozen of the other. Depends.
Okay, I don't know if you ever read the back in the early 2000s, or it might have been late 90s. It all runs together now for me because I'm over 50. There was a redo of Justice League. It was like Justice League Year 1, and it takes Superman and Batman out of the equation and starts it over with Martian Manhunter building the team. He's the one that goes out because he's the one that's learning about Earth and learning about the people, and so he's got files on all the other metas, and his thinking is that separately they're good, but together they could be, great. And we're going to need them because Starro is coming. And, I didn't realize I missed Martian Manhunter until I saw him in the cut. And I was like, oh man, you know what you could have done? You know what you could have done with 7 movies is you could have had that 7th Justice League movie be John Jones' introduction and have him be the one that gets everybody together.
There you go. He becomes the Nick Fury of the Justice League.
Yeah.
Especially since he's a general in the service.
Right.
He took over.
He's got the cover. Yes, I know.
There you go.
Yeah, man. I don't know.
No, and you're exactly right. I mean, the problem was that they had so many characters they had to establish already.
And they wanted to do it in 2 movies.
Right.
There you go.
Right, which was the thing that Marvel got right, was even the characters that didn't have their own movies had already been established in prior movies. So Black Widow and Hawkeye had been established in prior movies, and Loki had been established in a prior. So even your villain had already been established in a prior movie. So now you just say, okay, let's mix these characters all together and see what happens.
You don't need to explain super spies.
Right.
You don't need to explain what a spy is. We know that. And you don't need to give us Spider-Man's origin. We all know that. But probably a good idea to know what the deal is with Thor's family. That's going to come up. So I think it was, they figured that out early on, and I just don't know that Warner ever got their feet. But I'll tell you, going forward, I don't know that I need a Justice League movie if that's where it's going to be. I would much rather they do the thing that they, at their best, can do well, which is tell an epic, mythic story using their epic, mythic characters.
All right, I'm going to put a pin on that, Mark, because I want to go, because that was something I wanted to talk about, but I want to talk. I want Lucas to give us one thing that he really liked about the Snyder Cut.
I think I'll echo what James said. Is Victor Stone as a cyborg? That was the best part. And we're going.
All right, what's your second best then?
My second best is pretty much that Snyder got what he wanted to make this an epic story. how we got here, you could talk about it and debate all you want, but the fact that he was really saying, we're going to apocalypse. That's where, at the end of the day, we're going to have to go. And the show, I mean, they gave Steppenwolf the Destroyer armor, for crying out loud. I mean, you saw the armor they gave him in the original theatrical cut. That was nothing. This one here, I'm looking at this and say, you went to Thor's place, you beat up a destroyer, and then you retrofit the armor, didn't you? Didn't you, Steppenwolf? And his, and even I felt for Steppenwolf because this man just wants to go home. He says, there was a failed coup. I want to go home to my family. Fine, Darkseid, I was so sorry for this. I don't really mean it, but I'm sorry. Can I go home now? And you got to do all these missions to be able to go home. And then he finds out, oh, yeah, guess what? Darkseid, remember back in the old days when you went to Earth and, the Atlanteans, the gods, the Amazonians, and the humans, they, all band together, kicked your ass? Well, I found the planet. Want to come back? I'm like, there you go.
Yeah, the only thing I had a problem with or that I didn't understand was how do you not know where that planet was that you suffered this defeat? Like, why don't you, like, space is big. So to be able to get to a planet, you have to know what direction you're traveling in. And it was like, oh, we found the planet. And I'm like, how did they not know which planet it was?
I'll give you that explanation, Nathan. I'm glad you asked that question. Because Darkseid at that time was not the Darkseid we see here. This is think about it in this case. We know that these beings go maybe thousands or hundreds of thousands of years in their lifespan, right? We don't know as far as where Darkseid was when he actually went up against these guys and was about to conquer. He could have just been, from his state of view, either a young adult or a teenager. But he got his butt whooped. And you know what happens when kids who are in sports, whatever, get their butt whooped. They either get better or they try to ignore that even happened. So the way I'm thinking about it is this. That's a planet where he's saying, yes, I was able to conquer this, but we don't talk about that.
So he wiped all the ship's memory and everything. So
there you go. But that's a younger stupid. That's a younger stupid Darkseid. The Darkseid now is saying, oh, well, I haven't thought about that in hundreds of thousands of years. Huh. And they got the anti-life equation? Interesting. Take me there. And so I think that is the reason why we're seeing that from that standpoint. But no, your argument and your thought on this, Nathan, is clear because, it's like Napoleon, losing an area and then saying, oh, well, I don't want to think about, that area ever again. No, He wants to rebuild and go back there with a bigger force. Darkseid spent over 100,000 years avoiding Earth from, what I was able to gather from the Snyder cut. And all of a sudden, this is the one thing that brings it up because you got to think about this. All the mother boxes are put in several locations on Earth. Each one is very integral, but when joined, they're able to terraform Earth, which means you got to make that process happen. But what happens when you got Steppenwolf, who's on this mission, realizes, oh, well, guess what? The one thing that you've always been looking for is at the place with your biggest defeat. So it's like Rocky versus, Apollo Part 2. You got to get it back. Hell, no, really, it's Rocky versus Clubber Lang, when you think about it. So that's how I think Darkseid is thinking about this. He's going to say, oh, and now I deal with the descendants of these people who did this to me? Great. So that gives him more interest of investing his time when the situation happens with Superman to be able to turn him and make him a minion, his number one general to go after and to be able to take it. And so I see the kernels that Snyder was giving us. The sad part is that we'll never see that. And there's a part of me that is okay with it because it would have got, people make jokes about how dark DC is. I mean, case in point, Deadpool 2 movie, but it would have gotten, I'm talking about savagely dark. by the time we got to this final war. And so for me, I'm saying, nah, let's Patty do her thing. She got her own plans. James, got his plans for Aquaman. Whoever the director is for Flash, let them do their thing, and let's just start. My biggest heartfelt issue is that we'll never get a Batman versus Deathstroke movie ever.
Yeah.
And that for me,
I don't know.
like,
the story keeps changing almost on a daily basis because after years of Affleck saying I'm out, he's now saying, well, now that I've been able to put this distance on this thing, and now that I'm not going through a divorce at the same time, maybe I do want to be Batman again. So you never know what's going to happen.
I know, Nathan, but how much power does Ben still command in Hollywood now?
Well, no, it's true, but at the same time, now Michael Keaton,
everybody's got a boat payment to make,
right?
Yeah, it's true.
And Michael Keaton
got a mortgage now and an alimony, so
that too, and child support,
support.
But at the same time, they were going to replace him with Michael Keaton, but now Michael Keaton is saying because of COVID, he's not sure he is going to do what they were originally saying, and he was going to step in during Flashpoint. So it's all up in the air right now about what's going to happen with any of this stuff.
I'll be honest with you, Nathan, with the Keaton thing, I just think he possibly got a few pages of the new script and said, no, this ain't for me.
And that could be, and he could just be using COVID as
I think that they don't have a full grasp of what they're about to do with Flash, because Flash was going to be very integral with what Snyder had planned. And now they just scrap all that. And they're talking about, we're going to try to make it like Back to the Future or something like that. No.
Yeah, no, there have been like 5 different directors on the Flash movie, and they've been redoing the script every year. And so, I know. I mean, Flash has been troubled for a while.
It's a train wreck. And it's not like a normal train wreck where like the train comes off the track. It's like a circus train wreck where the ostriches are spilling out of the cars and the clowns are on fire and everybody's running for the woods, and the acrobats are tumbling out, and somebody let the lion cages out and the lions are eating the conductors, and you go, wow, this is a disaster. I knew it would be bad because it's a train wreck, but I didn't realize that there were going to be circus animals involved. That's what it is. And I'm telling you, in times like these, my axiom is the only thing that's going to save you. Until not the one about the gorilla.
Oh, I thought you were going to say that somebody needs to wear a gorilla suit.
No. That's a different axiom. This is my rule for getting through this. Until I see a leaked photo from the set of the actor in the suit coming out of his trailer holding a Starbucks cup, they're not making that movie.
There you go.
Right. And with DC, that's actually a good thing because they've announced all kinds of movies.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. James knows $7 million spent on a Superman movie that didn't happen. I feel you, brother. I feel your pain. And that's it right there. Until I see evidence that that's happening, it ain't happening. Because until it's happening, it isn't going to happen. It's Schrodinger's movie, all of it. It exists in an state, and it is folly and a waste of time to try and speculate on what they're gonna do. That way leads to madness and death. I would rather try the wood beast on Arborea than try to figure out what those assholes are trying to do, because it's going to change every day. And it's only going to last until the executive gets fired and replaced with somebody younger than him who transferred laterally in from product development. That's how that happens. It's just, it's not like the good old days. It's not Stan and Jack in a room, going, the next villain will be Blastar. We don't have that anymore. That's not a thing. And DC is the same way, man. That just
ass.
They don't
But
know what they're
Lucas,
doing.
I
They
hear
don't
you
know.
about Darkseid and Apocalypse and all that, because even with the theatrical version of the movie, Steppenwolf is clearly talking to somebody. There are boom tubes and parademons. And so, of course, you think they're setting up a second movie with Darkseid. And then what does it do in the post-credit scene? Oh, let's do the Legion of Doom. And I
There
was
you
like,
go.
how is DC going to do a Legion of Doom when they haven't had movies for all the characters and they don't have enough villains? And it's like, how are you going to do Legion of Doom? Whereas Darkseid, at least you were kind of building towards that made more sense. So, yeah,
Putting
I definitely
carts
agree.
before horses, Nathan. Putting carts before horses. I.e., you got such a big appetite. It's no different than a little kid. When I was a little kid, I was 3 years old. I had my first pizza. And when I say I had my first pizza, I mean I went crazy on a pizza. I paid for it. My dad just gave me that look for it. You possibly won't do that again, will you? That's how I look at some of this. It's like you got all these plans, but plans are always subject to change. Yes, we could be able to make this happen. But here's the thing. I bet money that the original intent of the Marvel Cinematic Universe as it currently stands was not as it was originally written. But we were able to get to a satisfactory conclusion with the Infinity stuff and now everything after the fact. DC has got to start having that type of mentality of you got to be able to put time, money, effort, and intelligence in this. And I don't think they did. They put everything on Snyder. Snyder is dealing with no different than what happened with George Lucas and all these other directors. Haters who are not just affecting him, but affecting his kids and everybody else. He had to step back because he was not really supposed to be the Kevin Feige of the DC universe.
Right.
They were just
He
too
was a
lazy.
hired
Then when
gun.
they finally got it, when they finally got, Jeff Johns, I love his, Green Lantern stuff. The boy cannot manage to save his butt. And with this whole thing with Wheaton, and what happened with Fisher, it clearly shows he was just saying, well, we made all this money for, Avengers, just go with it and suffer it. Like, that's like telling a woman who's battered, oh, well, he's making money, just suffer the shit. Don't worry about it. We'll got it on the back end. No, deal with this knucklehead. Jeff wasn't willing to do it. And so now, DC is playing catch up, but it's also like saying, yes, we're going to give the fans what they want, because we want to be able. And you're right, it's not even Warner Bros. It's AT&T because they want that subscription.
Yeah,
they want that subscription, but it is short-term thinking for short-term outcomes. I.e., we want a big boom, but it's not going to Just be honest here. How many people drop their account after Justice League and possibly now Godzilla? They've seen it. They're not coming back to HBO Max.
No, I'm right with you, Lucas, because that's exactly what I did. I was like, I'm hanging in for Godzilla versus King Kong, and then that's it, because it's going to be months before Dune, which is the next movie they're putting out that I want to see, and by then I might be able to go to the movie theater anyway. So it's like, I'm done now. Yeah.
Yeah, I got Babylon 5 and I got, Batman and, Superman animated series and Justice League. So for me, I'm a kid in candy store because it's hard now just to be able to get the DVDs now for some of this stuff. Because everything is so streaming that you try to go on Amazon for some of this stuff, $80, $75. Why would I want to put all of that just to be able to have it when I can just spend $15.99 per month to be able to watch it, and I can just stream and binge it? Like, this is it. But if you're just a person who's just event oriented or movie oriented, you see what you have to see.
Yeah.
Cancel your account. But that's not how you should run things. You give them more content. That's the only good thing for the Disney thing, is that they're at least trying to put out new content to keep people coming back, or at least staying. And I got
to be fair, and I'm gonna be fair here. What Marvel did is not typical, right? Like the short-term thinking is typical. Like, that is Hollywood's MO. Marvel and Feige were amazing because of the fact that they were able, like he was able to see the vision of, if we set out the pieces, we can tell a bigger story that has a bigger payoff. And somehow he was able to get Disney to buy into that. And now Disney's spinning that off into other things because they've seen how it worked with their Marvel subsidiary, and now they're looking at, oh well, we got this Star Wars property.
Remember, originally it was Paramount that was backing them, which is another old school, old thinking studio, and they have all said before, many times in many different places, how terrified they were, because basically, you know, what happened is Paramount gave them enough rope and said, okay, here you go, you better not screw this up. And they were like, oh, what did we do? It just happened to, I mean, it worked because they were at least committed to making new mistakes. They weren't going to redo old mistakes. They were at least going to try something new and if they failed, it would be for having done something different.
Right. But what Warner's problem is, nobody, you know, they're trying to emulate the size of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right, without doing what you need to do, because you can't have that big mega interconnected franchise of, you know, it's a franchise of franchises because they're all their own, you know, individual character and their own movies, but then they also interconnect. You can't do that without laying out the pieces and doing long-term thinking, and that's the problem there. But that's the problem. Warner Bros. Is taking their classic thinking and trying to say, like, well, give us what Marvel has. Well, you can't do that.
Did you have thoughts, Nathan? Were we supposed to follow a format, or are we just going to just
well, I still haven't gotten to what I really liked about the Snyder. But the three of us really like to talk, you, me, and Lucas. And poor James is sitting in the corner there. It's just like, when I'm directly addressed, I'll answer the question.
Well, here's the thing. So, like, and we'll probably get into this with some of your other questions. Lucas messed me up. He messed me up. He said some stuff that I never thought about this perspective before.
Yeah.
I was like, I had so many things, but now you like messed it up, because now I'm like, wait, that doesn't really apply because he said that.
It was an inspired take. Yeah.
I was like,
it was really good, and I was like,
What's really gonna make my buddy Paul mad is when I tell him about that, and I'll be like, if that was the case, I was with you, Mark. I was like, if that's the case, if that's what was being shot for, that changes everything.
Yeah,
that changes my perspective in many great ways. And he'll be pissed. He'll be through the roof. He'll be like, "Are you kidding me? Since Man of Steel, I've been trying to convince you." I'll be like, "Yeah, but you didn't have the right argument, Lucas. Lucas had the right argument."
Well, and this is why I enjoy doing this show, and this is why I hate when people are like, well, you can't convince anyone of anything, and so there's no point expressing your opinion if it's different from the other person. Just let them have their opinion and you have your opinion, and don't talk about it. Because I'm like, but no, like, I am a thinking human being, so if somebody gives me a compelling argument, I change my opinion. Like, you know, and I expect other people to do the same. So that's why I love these discussions, because sometimes I hear something that makes me go, oh, that makes me reevaluate what I had thought. And so that's interesting. So that's why I love this. But there's so many people right now that are afraid to express their opinions because everybody is just like, well, that disagrees with my opinion. So why are you a hater? Why are you trying to force me to, like, you know, think what you think? And it's like, I'm not. I'm just expressing my opinion, you know, whether positive or negative, because there are people that come at you at both sides. It's like, if you're positive when they're negative, that's wrong. Or if you're negative when they're positive, that's wrong. And it's just like, it's my opinion.
Yeah, it turns into your reality is not my own, therefore it is irrelevant.
Right.
Batman is flying on Superman. Who cares?
So what I really like about the Snyder Cut, and this just, I guess, speaks to my own, like, you know, like, way of thinking and everything, is there and I'm going to explain it by explaining this book series that I read once. It's the Word and Void series by Terry Brooks. And one of the things in that series is that when this character goes to sleep, he lives in the future that will happen if he fails in his mission. And so what I really love about Snyder Cut, like the thing that's the most interesting part of it to me, is what's called Nightmare, which started in BVS, and there's the continuation of that in the Snyder Cut. And this idea that that's what's happening to Batman is he sleeps, and when he sleeps, he's living in the universe of what, you know, will happen if they fail against Darkseid. And I find that super interesting. In fact, I want that movie. I'm like, forget Justice League 2 or whatever. I want to see Batman in the post-apocalyptic universe, where Darkseid has won. Superman, because Lois was killed, has turned evil. And, they're like the last few people like trying to eke out an existence and find a way of changing the timeline so that this doesn't happen. It's Days of Future Past. It's whatever. I always love the dark, gritty future that they have to change.
Yeah.
I love that. That's like one of my favorite tropes in like fiction. And I'm glad that came back, because that was one of my problems after watching the theatrical cut. I was like, what was the point of that scene in BVS where Bruce sees this alternate future and the Flash is like, Lois is the key, oh no, I'm too early. And then he snaps away. And it's like, I don't, there's nothing that connects to that. And then this movie gives you that connective tissue, and you see that they're setting up the next movie, which is going to be, I'm pretty sure that's the movie that's sort of was supposed to be the linchpin in that story arc. And
I'm just a fan of Batman in goggles and a duster.
Yes.
That's always a good Batman look. So
yeah. And again, more Deathstroke also in that, alternate future. So that would have been really interesting too. So yeah, I mean, I loved that. I mean, we didn't get a huge amount of it, but just what we got, because that set like my creative part of my brain like firing, and I could just see like so many cool like scenarios and scenes that could spin out from that. And
would it have included an Alfred versus Wintergreen scene that was like the Robin Kato fight in the Batman Green Hornet crossover? Because I'd fund that on Kickstarter if that was going to happen.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the other thing is Alfred is so good in these movies. Also, that's again, the casting I think was fantastic in all of these. But yeah, no, I would put that more in the Batman movie that should have been with Affleck. That's where we would have gotten the Alfred versus Wintergreen scene. We kind of talked about what we liked from this movie, or the things that really got us excited about the movie. And so, the next thing that I wanted to ask, which we kind of touched on, we kind of verged on, because the word is, and like I mentioned already, everything's changing on a daily basis. HBO Max is going to the Warner, cinematic people and saying, look, this movie did really, really well. Like this thing like really helped our streaming service. We think maybe there should be a Justice League 2, and we need to put this into production. And we know that, Warner corporate has said, like, hey, no, we're not doing this. But the question is, how much money did they make? How many new subscribers did they get? Can they sway this opinion? So if that's true, because again, all of this is caveats and reports and rumors, would you want a Justice League 2? And I think, Lucas, you're the one who most definitively already spoke on that subject, but do you have anything more you want to say about would you want a Justice League 2 if it was going to be like on HBO Max and be, another, mini-series-ish, or because that's the thing. Even though it was 4.5 hours long, you could watch it as a movie, but they made it so it had 6 chapters. So you could also watch it as a mini-series. So, I mean, it was up to you as the viewer. My wife and I watched it in 2. We did 1 through 3, and then we did 4 through 6, a couple nights later. So yeah, Lucas, like, what would you be okay with that? Would you be cool with that?
I would be okay with it, but I'm trying to get in the mindset, like say a Warner Brothers or even an AT&T executive pitching this. Because I'll be honest with you, Nathan, this is how I would do it. The movie itself wouldn't be a movie; it'd be miniseries. It'd be long form TV miniseries, and this is how I would cater. Okay, now they're not gonna like this because they're gonna be thinking it's double dipping. But there has to, hell, we're dealing with the multiverse right now, the multiverse of madness over at Marvel. DC needs to split off and say there's a Snyder verse, and then there's everything else that people are going to have to get at the theaters once everything is in the clear with this COVID stuff. And it has to be separate. I would love to see this continued, but it will have to be approached. And they're going to have to bring that Brinks truck up to Snyder's doorstep. And here's the thing. they're going to definitely have to make amends with Fisher if this is going to happen, because that's the only person I think is going to actually be working with Fisher in the future is going to be Snyder. Snyder will continue to employ the boy. Everybody else is going to be too afraid to touch this kid.
Yeah.
But they need to be able to make amends. But I would
we
love
know
to
he
see
was willing to come back and do reshoots for Snyder specifically. Yeah.
Absolutely. So there you go. But it has to be done. You know, and I'm talking about a HBO Watchmen, HBO Lovecraft Country type format where we're getting seasons of this in the build-up, which means Snyder is able to, you know, sprinkle in all the stuff he ever wanted to. It still looks like a movie.
Yeah, it's not going to not look like a movie, right?
But it's done but it's still in a miniseries format. Maybe it can be 44, minutes or 47 minutes, and what have you. But let it be about 3 seasons, and then the last thing will be the movie itself, i.e., everything is leading up to it, and then the movie. And that's how I would address it. But I would love to see the movie, but I would rather it be start with a series of miniseries to continue to get more people invested in HBO Max and to stay on. And then the big one, you can either see it on HBO Max or you can see it in the theater in IMAX, would be the big push towards apocalypse and saving the soul of Clark Kent and so forth. That would be perfection if I was to pitch it. But you gotta be smart enough to want it.
Let me ask you one other question, Lucas. What about the Ayer cut of Suicide Squad? Would you want to see that also? If they were like, well, the Snyder cut of Justice League did well, what about the Ayer cut?
Yes. The way I'm thinking about it is this: don't ever discount your customers. And I'm seeing now is this: I understand you have annoying Karens out there who are the customers who say, "See, I want to see your managers." I get that, but if the customer comes into a thought of realizing that there is a superior cut of this or a possibility of superior cut, put the damn thing out there for people to see, for them to judge. Because the days of this, we're just going to do it to put butts in seats, those days are gone. And I'm seeing this now often because even if we're able to get everybody, taken care of with, COVID or, age afterwards, people are still going to be slow to go back to the theaters. And Mark, I am literally saying all prayers and positivity to you, buddy, because you're going to need to have as many people coming into there, because it's now going to be almost like, it's going to almost be like a delicacy just to go to the theaters. And I never would have thought in 10 to 15 years I would say that.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing it where I am in Georgia, where people want to, but the will to go is like, I don't know. And so, like I said, for me, put it all out there, because the more content that you put out there, the more it's going to benefit the entire company. But they themselves have to have the vision for that. And that's the problem I'm seeing, is that they do all these big short-term big steps, but when it concerns to the large-term investments, the legacy they're going to be remembered for 20 years, 30, 50, they're not willing to, to pull that trigger. And so it's going to be dicey, Nathan. Very dicey. But we'll see what happens, buddy. Yeah. I'm open to it. 100%.
I always wonder why these companies don't want to make money, because it's like, if the director had their, like, okay, the studio said, hey, we want to make these changes, whatever. But it's like the director had their vision, release both versions and just see. Because, at best, you get double money because people are buying both. At worst, people will only buy one. But that doesn't hurt you because you're still making money on it. So, but yeah, James, what about you? So both, the question of, would you like to see what the Ayer cut of Suicide Squad was, and would you like to see, because, people are saying, like, release the Snyder verse, quote unquote, and they're encapsulating the Ayer cut of Suicide Squad as well as Justice League 2 and 3, in that. So would you like to see the continuation? Would you like to see an alternate take of Suicide Squad?
I mean, I wanted to say this really quick. When you were making that comparison, like, oh, you get paid twice, I was just like, Deadpool 2 did it. They released the PG version and they had the R-rated version, and like one had unique things that the other didn't, and both of them sold money. But yeah, it's hard for me to say because I have had such a storied past in general with the Snyderverse. Because I've always had the purview of like Zack Snyder's vision of these heroes has not been my vision of these heroes. It's just not a lot of the thing, and it's not to say there aren't things I liked. Like Man of Steel, there were things I really liked when I was seeing previews and even seeing the movie for this first time, where I was like, are we doing like the Earth One stories that they just came out with, where we're talking like this is Clark and he's just not sure he wants that responsibility of these powers. He just wants to be like everybody else. And are we going to do like, are we really going to lay into it? And some of those thoughts and stuff, and a lot of that was there. So it's hard for me to say. Like I would say yes, I want a Snyderverse thing, and I like what Lucas is saying as far as like do it as like a series. Build a background. If you're not going to build a background in theatrical releases, you got to build it somewhere. As they say, if you build it, they will come. Like it's the truth of it. If you make these characters worthwhile to the point where like some mega movies coming out to sum up everything that you did in the series, and you have all these other people who maybe didn't watch that series and they're talking to their friends or they're talking to family or just total strangers and like, what is the big deal about this? Those people are gonna be like, oh dude, you need to go back and you need to get HBO now. You need to watch the series. Like watch it and you'll understand, you'll get it. So they build the hype train on top of it. I absolutely want to see an Ayer cut if that truly and factually exists, because I was so let down with that movie. Like it was like Justice League almost bad for me, because I was just like, these are all compelling characters in their own right when you read the comics about them. Yeah, they're villains, but they have unique motivations, they have unique backstories, they have unique feelings. Like they're, like villains have feelings too, and I felt like when you only encapsulate that in one character, for me at least, in that whole movie, which was El Diablo, and it was just like, he's the most sympathetic guy I've had in the whole thing. And that's by the time we get to the end. By the time we get to the end, he's finally, it's like, oh, I like this guy. And it's sad. Great. But you have all these other characters, they tried with each of the characters in establishing something that was meaningful about them, but it just fell flat for me. It never landed. So yeah, if there's a cut that makes that better. Oh, and they don't kill off the one Native American hero in like 5 seconds, that would be great, considering that that's a great villain in the comics. It's like, why did you waste his time? A, you wasted that actor's time, and B, you wasted that character's time.
Well, the problem with the Suicide Squad is you gotta kill somebody.
Well, you do, but you don't
you gotta kill one of them at least.
You use Suicide Squad to clean house.
Right.
Is what you do.
Yeah.
Candyman, Clock King, Calendar Man, any other character with a C. You thin the farm leagues, man. You take out the D list. You don't. I feel you. Yeah, I know.
If you hear Ayer talk. There is an Ayer cut, and he says that basically he wanted to create like a very meaningful, like thoughtful movie, and then Deadpool came out and the studio was like, we want that. And he was like, that was never what the movie, that's what James Gunn is doing with Suicide Squad too. He's making a movie from the ground up that's basically like their like silly action raunchy movie. But that wasn't what the original Suicide Squad was supposed to be. But the studio said, no, we want that. And that's why that movie feels so weird, because they're trying to like cut a movie that was supposed to be serious, and they're trying to turn it into Deadpool.
It's almost like DC is the bad guy here.
Right.
It's almost like Warner Brothers is the real villain. Huh. Weird.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. The only thing I don't want in that cut is more of Jared Leto's Joker, because I really can't stand Jared Leto's Joker.
Well, here's the interesting thing. I didn't know that you didn't know this. The interesting thing is, the theatrical version of the movie has they try to make it like the Harley Joker romance, like, like the idealized version of that. Apparently, like the version that Ayer did, like it's all about the abuse, and it's all about how she's got Stockholm syndrome, and she like has to come to grips with that. And it's not like the whole like, oh, like this is some nice relationship, like when he pushes her out of the plane, like they make it look like he's trying to save her in the theatrical version when he pushes her out of the plane.
Right.
And apparently in like the regular, like the version he made, that was no, the Joker was just being like a jerk and was pushing her out of the plane. Like that was a violent act to kill her, and it's like, so yeah, I mean, it definitely would be interesting, I think, to see it more in that light.
Absolutely.
So anyway, sorry. All right, Mark. So same question for you about, would you like to see the Ayer cut? Would you like to see Snyder's vision of Justice League?
Yes. The caveat on the Ayer cut is that I don't always agree with the director's take on things, because and Exhibit A for me is Ridley Scott's Blade Runner. I don't think the director's cut works, and if his stated intention was to tell us that Deckard is a replicant, sorry internet, spoiler alert, then he did a terrible job of it, because one dream of a unicorn is not, it's just bad. I think the narrative works. I think all of that works. So if this, I mean, that said, I'd watch it, sure. I don't think Lucas did anybody any favors when he recut Star Wars. But I guess that was really a recut, but he claimed, it was his director's version. This was his intended thing. All right, whatever, yeah, put it out. Let's let history, decide in our bread and circuses sort of way. But yes, I think we're all in agreement. Snyder needs a minimum of 6 hours, and he could probably do with 8 or 9. That's a perfect HBO series to eke out one a week, every Sunday night. And it ensures that you have to be a subscriber for 2 months if you want to see the whole thing, right? So, economically it makes sense for them, and it gives him room to maneuver. He needs elbow room, and he needs time. We're going to get some slow motion shots that probably don't need to be there. We're going to get some lingering gazes that we don't know is going to, like, if it's going to pay off or not, and it may not. In the case of The Watchmen, we're going to get a bathroom door that swings as we dolly in on it, and we don't know what happens because we're just dollying in on that bathroom door swinging back and forth. So, give him room. When he's on, he's great. And if he's going to if he's going to pick up that thread, I'll watch it. I'll watch it because I'm confident in my ability to not feel as if this is now the only Justice League that's available to me, right? I got stacks of comics and graphic novels. I got every episode streaming right now, and I've got DVDs of that stuff. If I need Justice League, I can get Justice League. I can get my Justice League. If I want the Super Friends, I can go watch, I
was going to ask if that was your Justice League.
No, we're back to Paul Dini and Bruce Timm, but yeah, if I want to watch Gorilla Grodd and Solomon Grundy, I'll do that too. Whatever your level of involvement is, that's the thing. We're no longer in a world where this is all you get and you're thankful for it. We're in a world where if you don't want to acknowledge the existence of the Netflix Marvel shows, you just don't have to watch them, but they're out there and they're going to be out there, and every Star Wars is available now at your fingertips. And so
not the holiday special.
Access is now no longer an issue. And if access is no longer an issue, then having a miniseries that leads up into a theatrical movie or 2 or 3 is, I think, the way to go. you know, and this is the deal, and this is the other thing that you need to know about Warner. Warner movies and Warner TV are different companies, and they are actively hostile and acrimonious towards one another. There is no synergy. There is no crosstalk. There is no communication.
Other than at one point there was an edict that was handed down that any character the movies were using they couldn't use on TV, which is why the Arrowverse suddenly got rid of a bunch of characters, because it was like, oh crap, we can't have Deadshot anymore. Well, we'll kill him off. He's done.
Right.
He's done.
And that comes from corporate. But the thing is, you know, that's why the Berlaneyverse is, you know, again, for all the problems that I have with it, it's very well developed and it's out there and it's all available, and you can just go watch whatever, you know, if you want tragedy porn, there's Arrow. If you want space gorillas, there's The Flash. If you want Doctor Who without Time Lords, there's Legends of Tomorrow. You know, this notion that we need to be saved from ourselves is ridiculous. I say let the cream rise to the top. You know, it's all theoretically, well, it's all from the consumer's point of view, it's all technically equal. Lucas, I appreciate the prayers and good thoughts. I will tell you that I think movies are going to be able to bounce back real quick. Right now, if you want to watch the new Disney princess movie, it's $30 to buy it digitally on top of your HBO subscription. So it's $45. You can come to my theater. 2 people can get a ticket and buy a combo deal with popcorn with real butter and a drink and watch it. And it's $25. And you get out of the house for 2 hours, and you don't have to listen to your kids, and you don't have to pause the movie because somebody has to get up and water the dog or feed the plants. And it takes you out of your space. And right now, everybody wants to get out of their space because they're sick of looking at their walls. So I think right now, if everything tracks, the movies from last year and this year are going to pile up at the end of the year, and we'll have an embarrassment of riches, and B, we'll have a lot of tent poles for people to go and just, you know, get out, clear their heads and time travel to, you know, Metropolis or, you know, wherever they want to go. So that there's still value in that. Yeah.
With the vaccinations, I mean, it's going out at a pretty good pace now. It seems like everybody on my Facebook feed's gotten vaccinated now. So I'm hopeful that in the second half of the year, people will feel confident about going. And
I can't speak for Chicago or Dallas or Austin or, you know, big cities, but I can tell you in small towns, everybody wants to go and do something. And I'm one of those guys. I'm in a town that's, you know, 3 hours from everywhere. So I am the game in town if you want to come see something. So
all right, very cool. Yeah. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, like when people were saying release the Ayer cut like right after the Snyder cut came out, I was like, I'm actually more interested in that than I was in the Snyder cut, because that was a movie that I really felt jarring just sitting in the movie theater, like, because it felt like it was like within like minutes was vacillating between what story it was trying to tell. And I thought that there was probably something else there that we didn't get to see. And at least with the Snyder stuff, I had seen 2 of his movies that were complete. You know, I'd seen Man of Steel, I'd seen BVS, you know, but I really want to see that original vision of Suicide Squad. Now, obviously, it doesn't have the name recognition. It doesn't have a lot of, you know, the things going for it. The Justice League didn't have, you know, 2 prior movies that were that other director's vision, etc. But I would like to see it. And after the Snyder cut, I would love to see his vision completed. Because like I said, like I at least see narratively what he was trying to do. Like the things that felt weird to me about Man of Steel and BVS, I at least see that they matter for the story that he's trying to tell. It's still not the version of Superman that I want to see. but I get what he's doing now. Like it became super obvious watching the Snyder Cut what the narrative thread is here. And so, yeah, and of course, Darkseid. I mean, that's Darkseid on live action television or a film, you know, like on the screen. Like, amazing. Like, I've seen him animated. You know, I've seen ever since the Super Friends series in the 80s that had Darkseid as the bad guy. I've seen him animated, and I've seen him in the Dini stuff. You know, I've seen him in all that stuff. But Darkseid in a movie?
That was just to sell toys. You know that, right?
Yes. And that means that the television show is worthless because of that. I mean, I think if you're a show with great storytelling and you sell toys, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, like Star Wars, you know, the original Star Wars trilogy did. You know, that was great stories that also sold toys. So, you know. I've always felt that that's like a really ridiculous argument that the selling of toys inherently makes the product bad. But anyway,
we'll agree to disagree.
Right. Because then Star Wars and Empire and Return are bad too. But anyway, but yeah, so yeah, I want to see the rest of his vision. I want to see, you know, what Snyder was doing. And yeah, there are things coming out that say like, well, Snyder said that, like, you know, Lois and Clark's kid is going to be Batman by Justice League 3 and stuff like that I'm not sure is real, or if that, you know, is but it's like at this point I'd just be curious to see it. You know, if that is
Super
his
Sons,
vision.
if they're going to give me world finest Super Sons, yes, absolutely. I kind of thought we were going to get that with Superman and Lois right now because of Clark and Lois's two kids. But I would watch the out of some Super Sons. That was one of my favorite series of stories in World's Finest. Yeah, those were great. So yeah, I'm all for that. Let's go.
Okay. But yeah, so yeah, I mean, I think we're all on the same page as far as that stuff's concerned. And yeah, I mean, as always, these episodes get away from me. So we've been talking about Snyder Cut for a while. Final thoughts, anything that you haven't said that you feel like needs to be said? Let's start with you on this one, Mark.
All right. I'll just reiterate. For those of you out there that are hating Zack Snyder for quote unquote ruining your childhood, sack up. Okay. He didn't ruin anything. He made 3 movies. All right. There's hundreds of hours, probably approaching 1,000 hours of Superman that you can go watch, and I guarantee you some of that stuff is unwatchable. It's more unwatchable in so many other ways. You know, if you really hate his Batman, go watch Batman 66. Let's see how long you last. I'm betting Marcia Queen of Diamonds is where you check out. All right. So, you know, it's ridiculous. We don't need to be having this fight. There's way other things that we need to be having better conversations about. So, you know, if you just can't stand it, feel free to not watch it. But honestly, you know, you're missing out on some good stuff. There's some great stuff in those movies. And prior to 2008, we all had to watch this stuff and pick out the great stuff because it was never flawless. It's never been perfect. It's always been a mixed bag. We're always happy when that mixed bag is like 65, 70%, because then it was like, okay, it was mostly good. So, you know, find something to love about it, but for God's sake, you know, leave him alone. He doesn't deserve the he's been given. He really doesn't. And I hate that fans of stuff that I love that extol the virtues of being a better person are sending death threats to directors and actors for these perceived transgressions. I think that's the highest amount of bullshit, and shame on you.
Yeah, anytime that people like make it personal about like the creative people behind a product rather than about the product, that's about, like, I have no issue with anyone that wants to say like the Snyder Cut was an awful movie and will like explain their position on that. That is different from saying like Zack Snyder is awful and I hate you and I'm going to kill you and all that kind of stuff. You know, like anytime you make it personal, that is where it becomes wrong. You know, because these people, they're just making a product. And if you don't like that product, that's fine. Don't watch it. You know, that's it. But yeah, definitely agree with you. And also, Mark, I have to agree with you because as a child of the 80s, I came at Batman from the 89 movie. And because it was so popular on the Family Channel, suddenly they started running the Batman 66. And so I was like, oh, Batman, you know, having watched the Keaton movie and loving it, I'm going to watch that. And my God, I was so unprepared for Batman 66 after seeing the Keaton movie. And I was just like, what is, like, I recognized the costume. You know, but this is not Batman.
Yeah.
I watched that stuff, guys, at 4 years old. And it was like, as a 4 or 5 year old kid, that's so cool. That's so cool. Like, boof, bang, pow. But it's for kids. But if you're trying to go for, like, say, teenager or adult, you just guys, you know, get their enjoyment in what they were doing. And then that's it. I enjoyed the Green Hornet series more than I enjoyed.
Oh, Green Hornet was badass. Yeah.
He was so good, man.
One final thought. If those of you out there that are upset that Snyder has presented a dark version of DC, and you don't think that the DC characters are dark, do me a favor, go make a pile of your Batman The Dark Knight Returns and your Batman Year One and your Justice League The Nail that Alan Davis did, and your V for Vendetta. And all of those other Kingdom Come, take your Kingdom Come and your special edition hardcover Kingdom Come, take all of that and burn it, because clearly none of that has any place in the world with your squeaky clean, happy-go-lucky DC stuff. I'll remind you that in the 50s, Batman was fighting off aliens, and Superman was dealing with rainbow kryptonite. So, you know, you can't have it both ways. You have to decide where you're going to go on it. And if it's mythic, then it can stand more than one interpretation. If these characters really are larger than the scope of their selves, then you can give them more than one spin. That's what the whole Elseworlds thing was about. So lighten the hell up.
No, and that's fair. And that's the thing. I mean, it's like, and that's the thing. It's like we exist in a world where we've had, you know, a lot of versions of these characters, of some of these characters, Superman and Batman specifically. And so it's like the world can stand an alternative take, you know. Yeah. So yeah. James, what about you? Any final thoughts on the Snyder Cut?
I'll say the one thing that I said the last podcast we did, which was, I was like, there was too much slow motion for me. Zack Snyder used slow motion like J.J. Abrams uses lens flares. Like, it was all over the place. But yeah,
he's a man who knows what he likes.
He is. And you know, that's the thing I will give Zack Snyder at the end of the day. Like, if by chance my buddy Paul listens to this podcast, God knows I'll try to get him to. Like, my big takeaway is, it is at the end of the day, as Mark kind of said, and I'll say in a shorter purview, which is like, these are all our heroes. Like, all of us like these heroes, but it is perfectly acceptable for there to be different versions, because guess what? There are a lot of different versions. Like, one of my favorite Batman stories is one that they told a few years ago, where Batman dies and then travels through time as a cave bat, as a pirate, like. Yeah. All this stuff.
I love that, James.
Yeah, I was like, this is the coolest shit. Are you kidding? I was just like, but I know people who are just like, that was so stupid. That was the dumbest thing. And I go, but this is the great thing about comics, is comic book creators will do this. They will turn a character on its head. They'll do wonky stuff with it. Because guess what? It's not real. It's fictional. House, it's fiction. And that's the great thing about it. While Snyder's universe isn't necessarily for me on the whole,
Good girl.
I may have to go back and rewatch movies now. And again, it's all because of what Lucas said. It's all
Yes.
because of what
Yes.
Lucas
I'm
said.
going to have to go watch
was like,
Superman again. Thank you, Lucas.
Dang it.
Thanks.
You're welcome. I'm so glad to be of service. This is what I do, buddy. Yeah, I mean, it's all about how you look at things, guys. It's funny. My dad was always interested, in saying, "Oh, if this didn't work, look at it from a different angle." A lot of us are so stuck on just seeing things from just our own perspective, whatever, as opposed to, get out of the way and look at it from other angles to be able to see it. And so for me, as I get older, I'm becoming where it's important. I'm using it like a muscle, that mentality of you got to look at things from different angles to see what, others can't see. Because right now they're saying, well, it doesn't work. Why is it doesn't work? And then you see it's like, oh, I figured it out. It's like no different than getting the golden ticket from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And that's all you are doing, guys. Is just I listen to a lot of these film, critics, and I can know the ones who are too stuck up, they've been doing this for too long. And then I get those ones who are like saying, well, this is what I saw, and this is how I got to it. And they literally will tell you how, and you're like, we're going to say, well, damn, now I got to relook at the movie again.
Yeah.
That's the best way, because we all look at it from our own perception, but we never ever really look and try to find what was the intent that these directors and these producers and even these actors were trying to make happen. And we're in a role, like you said, Martin. What you said, Mark, is that we got so much, and that's the problem I'm saying now. We got so much, but everybody is looking for crumbs. You got gourmet meals. You got great stuff, but yet you're looking for that little kernel, and you're going to die on that hill. And I'm saying, why? Just go back to your books. Hell, if you don't like it, we got technology now where you can actually make the films that you want. That's why I like stuff like Bad in the Sun on YouTube. These guys make the Superman and Batman and other superhero films that they want to make. They don't wait for Hollywood to do it. They put their own funds, they use their own money, whether it be crowdfunding, whatever, and they put it out there. So there's no excuses anymore. The days of you saying, oh, well, I don't like it, and boo-hoo, the hell with the director and producers, I hate that, actor. Grow the hell up and grow some balls. Because if that is your biggest hang-up, there are bigger fish to fry out there that you will not be able to deal with, my friend.
There you go. Yeah, if this is throwing you off your game, God help you, if something real comes along.
Well, yeah, I mean, Mark, you used that phrase earlier that people say, "Oh, you ruined my childhood," and that phrase always annoys me because even when I don't like a property, I never say it ruined my childhood because my childhood's still there and the version of that thing is still there. So if I don't like the new version, that's fine. I don't ever have to experience it again. I can just watch, the older version that I prefer. So yeah, I think that people, are making way too big a deal out of things and they're like, you ruined my childhood. Well, no, they didn't.
Right.
But Lucas, is there anything else you wanted to say about the Snyder Cut?
I'm just glad it's out. I'm glad it's there for people to get, because when the lead up to it was coming, I was catching so much hell. Whether YouTube, I had to leave Twitter because I got into some knucklehead. And I'm saying, I don't got time for this crap. I got other stuff to deal with. Right. Why am I going to let this knucklehead, get into my personal headspace about this thing and rub my blood pressure because I can't find this knucklehead,
Yeah.
So I just said, and they said, oh, well, we're so sorry. But now I'm just saying, you know what? I'm happy with the fact that it, because you can't lump me in with all these haters or whatever. I got the thing I wanted. I got to see something happen. And now, like I said, you can say whatever the hell you want to say. You call me every F word and everything else. Guess what? Snyder Cut exists. It wasn't a myth. Grow the hell up. You can watch it or don't. It's there. And I'm a happy man. Now, this is all we're going to get. Fine.
Yeah.
And like I said, for me, I've been okay with, slow motion from, Snacks since 300. There's only one movie he's disappointed me, and that's Sucker Punch.
Oh, yeah.
Jesus Christ, that movie. Like I said, it's visually
The
stunning.
Sucker Punch was that you went in expecting a good movie.
I was like, at the end, I said, "This is what you do to our main character." Okay, yeah, go screw yourself. Other than that, he has not messed me over at all with any of his product. So how he gets all this hate, it still baffles me. But like you said, he does. That's his go-to. He loves the slow motion stuff, just like the James Ayer. Every director, guys, has something that
everybody's got a style. Yeah.
And that's just their stuff. And so I'm like saying, well, what the hell were you expecting? Were you expecting, him to just change his ways? If he wants his, 3/4, that's what the hell he's going to get every single day. So you're going to get the lens flare from JJ. You're going to get the slow mo from whatever. You're just going to have to grin and bear it until you can find whatever you do like. But like I said, if that's not for you, I ain't going to, hate on you. But the fact that so many fans were saying, this sucker exists, and we know it exists, put it out there, and we're being literally demonized. I mean, I'm talking about drag out, talk about it.
Yeah.
That was like one of the worst things I've ever seen social media since. And the sad part is that I'm seeing now that same type of energy now geared towards Star Wars fans and Doctor Who fans and Ghostbusters fans. It's like, yes, we are very passionate about it. But the people that you need to be going after are those who, like I said, do the death threats. But don't lump all of us in with these knuckleheads. We have our criticism, and they are founded in facts and evidence, because we know you guys can do better. So I'm just glad that the Snyder Cut exists, Nathan, and that's pretty much how I'm going to end it, buddy.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, for me, the one thing that I wanted to mention from the movie that I thought was just such a great line, that is when Bruce is introducing them to Alfred, and he says, "This is Alfred, I work for him." And it's just like, and again, that's a great use of humor in the movie that is not like an out and out, look at us, we're being wacky funny, ha ha ha. But it shows like kind of like the relationship that Bruce and Alfred have. And again, I think that Affleck is a phenomenal Batman. I think we've had a phenomenal Alfred there with Jeremy Irons, is that his name?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Jeremy Irons. And and again, I love that relationship. So that's one thing I just thought of that I was like, oh yeah, I should mention that, just because I love that line when they gave that. And I loved them in general in this version. I'm still going to stick by the fact, I still think, like, I was one of the few people who liked the theatrical version after I saw it back in the day. I still think there are good things about it. And I think that, like I said, it's better on an emotional level, whereas I feel like the Snyder Cut's better on plot. And it's better on, like I say, it retroactively makes BVS and Man of Steel better movies.
Right.
Because we now see the vision, whereas the theatrical Justice League kind of existed as a thing that, yeah, it took things from those prior movies, but thematically it didn't feel like a successor to it, which is, I think, the point that Mark was making earlier about it. So, but I'm still glad the Snyder Cut got made, because, like I say, I have a new appreciation for Man of Steel and BVS because of it, and definitely I love the addition of Apocalypse. I love the time travel element they bring in, it was there in BVS, but I mean, like, that they did more with that and setting stuff up. And like I say, like, after that, I now want to see the payoff, because that movie did a great job of setting up a lot of things that it would be like, man, this really sucks if, like, the only payoff we get from that is, Aquaman, you have that connected in, and I think Wonder Woman 3 is still going to take up from this is after Justice League, and we know that Patty Jenkins, like, respects Zack Snyder, and she will probably, I think, make it be like a touch off from the end of the movie. Into Wonder Woman 3 for when Diana goes back to Themyscira, because she's already said that's part of Wonder
I'd be all
Woman
right
3.
with that.
Yeah. So, but then there's so many other parts of that were being set up that we don't get to see. So I'd even love if, I know this is pie in the sky, but I'd love it if, like, Warner, like, changed its management and Ray Fisher was, willing to come back now that they cleaned house. But I'm not sure that part's going to happen, because I'd still love to get a Cyborg movie, out of this. So, but yeah, so we'll have to see how things go. But yeah, I think it's better that the movie got made the way that Zack Snyder wanted to make it than that it didn't. Yeah, so let's say our goodbyes now and let people know where they can find us online. So let's start with you, James.
Yeah, people can find me on Twitter at Roman on the Rocks, and Facebook at Roman on the Rocks. It's pretty much Roman on the Rocks everywhere, as is my website that has been inactive for some time. But you can check out old articles and other podcasts there, and you can find my podcast on a number of different places. So yeah, it's just Roman on the Rocks, in which all of those old episodes I'm drinking and talking about things. So
all right, great. And Lucas, why don't you say goodbye and let people know where they can find you?
Man, it's been a pleasure. I enjoyed this more than possibly should have, but that's possibly the margarita also talking. I loved it. But this was good, guys. You can find me on Facebook, and you can find my website, which is Luke's Speculation. It's a WordPress. It's a WordPress website about crossover speculations. Last one I did was on what would happen if you could bring back Optimus Prime as a Gundam in the Universal Century. So you can find me there. That's the last one, and it's been a while since I've done an entry, so I need to get back to it before it becomes fully inactive. But thanks again, Nathan. It's been fun, Mark and James, and I hope to do this again, buddy.
Yeah, it was great having you back on, Lucas. And Mark, why don't you say goodbye and let people know where they can find you?
Yes, great topic. Really nice to meet you guys. I am an indolent Twitter person. On second, don't follow me there. I hate Twitter. Hit me up on Facebook if you want to follow me. Mention that you heard me on the 42 cast, so I know who you are and don't just blow you off. I do have a couple of blogs, Confessions of a Reformed RPGer, and Mark the Aging Hipster, which is Finn's Wake, my long-running thing. That's got a lot of personal stuff in it, and trigger warning, it's currently full of things about death and cancer, so be advised, it's not going to be fun unless you go back a couple of years. So better to just follow me on Facebook, where I'm trying to not be such a downer. And of course, the Gentleman Nerds. You can hit me up on thegentlemannerds.com. I podcast with some great guys, and we have similarly nerdy conversations as well.
All right.
I have to check that out.
Lucas, Mark, and James, thank you so much for being on the podcast this week.
You're welcome
for having me.
And that's a wrap on our Justice League Snyder Cut episode. We hope that you enjoyed it, and you can let us know whether that's true or not in a variety of ways. One way is to email us at everything@42cast.com. Another way is to go to our website at 42cast.com. Another way is to tweet to us at 42cast, or go to Instagram at 42cast, or go to our Facebook page at facebook.com/42cast. You can also leave us reviews on Stitcher or Apple Podcasts. And so, yeah, we just want feedback. We want to know what you like, what you don't like. We get far too little feedback. We get some. Would love to have more. So please do that. Also, the ratings on Apple Podcasts helps promote our show, because the more ratings we get, the more likely they are to promote the show. So that's appreciated too. I also want to make sure everyone's aware of the ESO Patreon. That's a way of supporting all the shows on the ESO network. You can go to patreon.com/ESO network and just check out the different tiers. You pay a certain amount per month, you get different perks. Some shows contribute early episodes, some shows contribute exclusive episodes. There's a whole exclusive podcast that you can get access to with one of the tiers. So just check that out, check what you can get with the different tiers, and if you have some funds that you can contribute, we'd all appreciate it if you do that. I also want to plug my other podcasts, and the first one is Time Streams, where my friend Juliet and I are going through all of Doctor Who from the beginning. You don't have to watch the series with us if you're just curious about Doctor Who, you just like our banter. We explain everything about the episodes we're reviewing that's important, so you can just follow along with us. You definitely get more out of it if you're watching the show, but I know if you don't want to pay for BritBox, or you don't want to buy the DVDs, or you just have a hard time watching 60s television or whatever, you might not want to do that, so you can dip your toe in with us, and then if that intrigues you, you can go and watch the episodes too. I mean, there's all sorts of different ways you can spin it, so I just want to make sure people are aware you don't have to watch the show with us, because I realize that for some people that would make make it a little bit difficult. Just check us out on time streams. The other one is Legendary Forces, where myself and 4 other intrepid podcasters, I've named them on other episodes, so I'm not going to do that here. We are going through all of Star Wars fictional media from the very beginning. And that one, we not only review it, we're also telling you whether or not it's worth your time. So now that a lot of that older material that wasn't, it's not a movie, comic books, novels, etc., is considered non-canon by Disney, is it even worth you reading just because it's just that good, or because it informs our knowledge of Star Wars because other things later on have picked it up or whatever? And so we're talking about all that kind of stuff. How important is it for Star Wars and how it's sort of like been created within the zeitgeist of our culture, and how good is it as just something to read or watch or all that kind of stuff. So anyway, check out Legendary Forces if that sounds interesting to you. In con news, I don't think anything has really changed. Still participating in Virtual Dragon Con. No new panels have come up from what I've mentioned before. And I'm still going to be at Chicago TARDIS this year. Don't know many details about Chicago TARDIS yet. So yeah, that's a wrap. Join us back next week when John Pertwee will not be joining us. And until then, this is Nathan, signing off. You have been listening to the 42 Cast, copyright 2021. Got a question for the ultimate answer? Contact us at everything@42cast.com. Theme music is Sharper Swords by Brandon Ellis. Check out more of his work at www.cityfires.com. The 42 Cast is a proud member of the ESO network. And now for some outtakes.
You were just saying that no one should direct Watchmen.
Yes, ever. But I did like the HBO series a lot.
Still need to watch that. I haven't had an opportunity to sit down with it yet.
Lucas, have you seen it?
I dropped off after the 3rd episode, but I'll try to get back to it.
I think it was actually the smartest thing that he could have done, which is to not to not redo Watchmen. He basically and what's cool about it is the premise is not that the movie happened, but that the comic book happened. He literally takes the comic book with the comic book ending, with the space squid, and then we go forward from there. And man, it's fantastic for just.
I'll check it out.
Yeah,
I had issues with the brother that was in the thing. I thought he was going to be another character, and when they actually said who he was, I was like, no, he's not. He's this guy. And I understand. They did what they did, but I was like saying, I had big issues with episode 3.
Yeah,
big issues. So I'll try to do it. But as far as what I heard, what they did with Dr. Manhattan, and even with Ozymandias, that was very interesting. And of course, you put, Jeremy Irons, who's also in this movie. He did an outstanding job as Alfred.
I like his Alfred. Yeah.
Oh my God, he is the. I ain't gonna say he's the best Jarvis, but he's close enough when it concerns, tech support for Bruce. But but for the idea of him as Ozymandias and what he had planned, and then coming back and finding about his daughter and whatever, that was interesting enough. But no, it's just that for me, and especially with concerns the first episode. First episode, Watchmen, guys, like when it opens up with the bombing of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and that horror show, and whatever.
That was tough to watch. Yeah,
it was tough to watch, but that's our history, whether people like it or not. And and so for me, I was saying, I see where you guys are going, but then when they made that twist, I was like, I'm gonna come back to this later because I wanted him to be his own character, not
Yeah.
associated with that particular character from the
Right.
comic.
Right.
And for me, I think that they did a disservice to the original intent of what Alan Moore did with that character,
Yeah.
changing that origin like that the way they did.
I
That's just me. That's my
there's
personal taste.
no, I get it, and I will say that there's some stuff that gets presented in like the first 3 or 4 episodes that kind of doesn't pay off until 8, 9, 10. Like how they do. So it'd be I'd love to hear your take if you can make it through all of them and see if
Believe
it
me,
changes
I will.
anything.
I
Yeah.
will, and I just literally will start from episode 4 onwards and see what they got. Because I got a friend of mine who does another podcast, Derek Ferguson. Who's
Oh, Derek, cool.
And me and him, we've been friends for a while, man. He's my buddy, and he does the superhero cinephiles, and he's going to be covering with Perry Constantine the Snyder Cut eventually. It'll just be those two, but they had the rebroadcast of their thoughts on the theatrical cut, which they just recently rebroadcasted. So it's interesting. But he and Perry went in depth on their thoughts on the Watchmen TV series.
Yeah.
So I have to revisit it. I mean, it's looking right at me on HBO Max. So eventually I'll get to it. Yeah.
It's a lot to take in. It's one of the few times when I was glad that I wasn't binging it. Especially that season opener was just brutal, and so
that's you watch movies like Rosewood, you understand that you can see now why you had the age of superhero comics and comic books. It wasn't just the rise of organized crime and prohibition, whatever. There was a lot of stuff happening in the 20s and 30s that led to people saying, we need people who are stronger, faster, smarter, who could possibly deal with a lot of these social issues that we can't do, and they're able to be more than who we are. And so when they went back to that bit of tragedy, which a lot of kids don't know about, I mean, they're finally realizing it now with their parents, like, that really happened? Yeah, I mean, the song by Charlie Murphy called, when he was in his old band, which, people remember the tagline, "You dropped a bomb on me." That was about, the Tulsa, Oklahoma tragedy, and everything you saw there is exactly what happened. It was gentrification in its worst outcome.
Yeah.
And you think about a survivor of that, eventually becoming a hero and so forth. That is almost a foregone conclusion.
I think it's strange, or maybe not. I guess maybe it's not, because you're dealing with such a large corporation, that Warner would be so tone deaf, regarding their Justice League movies and really the whole DCEU, and HBO seems to be leaning into it and going, you know what, let's shine a light on some stuff. I think I'm glad. I think that at least HBO is doing something, but it sort of bothers me. And nothing against the character of Cyborg, because I was a New Teen Titans fan from the get-go, and that was that era, Wolfman Perez, Teen Titans, that was my jam. I got in there on the ground floor, man. I was in the 4th grade when that came out. That was big doings. But I thought, there was just some opportunities that I thought could have been addressed earlier on. How about John Stewart? Give me John Stewart Green Lantern. Always loved John Stewart Green Lantern.
I'm telling you, and this is the thing, Mark, is that it's funny. It's like Warner and Disney are two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
What I mean by this is this. Whereas the movie side of the Marvel Universe was getting things mostly right, there's a few hiccups, but not a lot. The TV side was struggling. I mean, and And I got into an argument with Perry Constantine about this, which, since then we haven't even talked to each other. I think he blocked me. But I have two minds about Ike Perlmutter. I mean, I know, his political affiliations, but I'm not going to get into that. But there are certain things I think he was trying to work towards that didn't pan out, whether it be because of time, money, or whatever, that didn't come in. But after he left, things kind of got better, but things kind of got worse with the Inhumans.
Yeah.
And now they're trying to literally put everything back in with Falcon and Winter Soldier, WandaVision, and what have you. The opposite is now happening with Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers is floundering on the movie side. TV-wise, they're pretty much doing good work. I mean, the Superman, like I said, Tyler is, if you could go from Christopher Reeve to Brandon Routh, what little, he did what he could. And then, of course, Tyler. Those are the Supermen that you think about when you're like saying, oh, yeah. That's that optimistic. The real world, in the ground, questioning his actions will always be the Henry Cavill. However, this is the thing. This is the nut. This is really the genius of the Snyder Cut. And unfortunately, we'll never see this, is that I think that his epic was really about the psychological and personality redemption of Clark Kent, the entire series, because it all comes down to him. He equates humanity with individual people, not with the grander people, but with his father, with his mother, with Lois. What happens one day if they're all gone? Then his ties with humanity dies with them. And so it's easy for him to be corrupted and easy for Darkseid to get into him. And so he becomes an injustice Superman. Because it's no different than some people. Some people cannot, expand their heart and their sense of generosity beyond their inner circle.
Yeah, that's a really cool take.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing. I think that Snyder at the end of it was, it was going to be, craziness, Ragnarok, gone insane if we had gotten to the future war. But at the same time, they were planning to send somebody back, or at least information back to whoever they could get to impact Superman at a specific point so that he could say, so this is what's going to happen. I need to see this. Oh, and he's going to lose people. I mean, this is a Kryptonian. It's no different than what I'm seeing with, say, Invincible. And you guys, if you're not watching this stuff, I don't know what to tell you. Because after watching the Snyder Cut and then watching the last 4 episodes of Invincible, it puts a lot of stuff in perspective.
Yeah.
When it concerns the psychology of what it means to be a superhuman.
Well, this is one of the big things that Byrne did in '88 when he got to redo the character, is he made Krypton cold and emotionless.
Exactly.
And it's, Superman becomes who he is because of his Smallville appearance. And so that's actually, if that's really where he was going with that, that's brilliant. The idea, because that's a real common thing these days. It's really common to, only care to the edge of your door, right?
There you go.
I feel deeply for you and you, but them out there, they can go f themselves. And that's a man.
Because when you see even like say even the theatrical or ultimate version of BBS, and you see him in that whole crowd of people and they're touching on him, you see how uneasy he is. Saying, well, why are you guys doing this? But when he gets with Lois or when he's with his mom, you see how wholesome he is. This is a Superman who's been in a bubble because of his father, and whether you agree with his father's decision or not. And I'll be honest with you, I love the uplifting, uplifting Jonathan Kent from the Donner Cut, as well as even from the animated series. But the father that for me is the most important is the one who's going to literally say, "Yeah, come here, knucklehead. This is what you gotta deal with. This is what you gotta worry about, and what have you." He's not trying to scare you. He's trying to prepare you. But what happens when you're pretty much built yourself so many walls because you're afraid of what could go wrong?
Yeah.
And you're Superman.
Well, and so, you know, this was sort of my takeaway after watching the whole of the Snyder cut is Zack needs room to work, you know?
Oh God.
And as soon as I realized that, I you know, it really shines a light on how Warner Brothers f***ed up. You know, they
not just with him, with so many other directors.
Yeah.
Messing with just Donner. I mean, Donner.
Oh yeah.
Versus the cut that we got is like, Jesus, it's so much different.
Yeah.
And that's what they've been doing for decades, is that they will think that, oh, because realize this, guys, whether we like it or not, these corporations, these studios are ran by bean counters. They care about putting butts in the seat, and the most butts they can put in depends on the focus groups that they literally go to see these movies. They'll show one cut, and then they'll show another cut, and then they'll gauge and say, oh, well, this is what we think they'll do, so let's just do it like that. And so, how many movies other than Superman have been put out there that were just pretty much bargain, bin, movies that had better cuts? And so I get on people every time when I say, well, these toxic fans and this Snyder cut thing, how dare they? And I'm saying, so question, would you rather have a double cheese or would you rather have a filet mignon?
Yeah. Yeah, they're different things.
And then they shut up. As soon as I say it, then they shut up. Because it's not about toxic fans. Oh, well, they just rally against it, whatever. People use their hard-earned money, Mark, to be able to go see these movies. They could just something else. But no, they want to see quality in the films that they get, as opposed to, oh, well, it's just the usual garden variety stuff. And this is what really gets on my nerves, is the fact that y'all gonna try to distance and say, well, how dare you? All these people were just, whatever. No, they are passionate enough. But the problem is this: when you get the few bad apples who are, crazy, like what we just happened recently with Wyatt Russell, Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn's son, who's the new Captain America, with that nonsense of he's getting death threats, online. And I'm saying, these knuckleheads need to be found out. And I told this to my friends, what you guys are seeing in my face, guess what? Whether you agree with it or not, I'm not going to hide behind the symbol. I'm not going to hide behind the letter. I want you to see this face, because this face here is going to be genuine with you. The problem now, what I see with Twitter, is you got all these bots, all these knuckleheads who got no nuts. And I'm literally being honest, no nuts, who will literally go on there, say the worst things possible, and they got no type of repercussions for their actions.
Yeah.
That has got to stop. That really, Dodge City for social media has got to stop with that. But you lumping me in who's passionate and say, yeah, give me the damn cut because I know it's out there, and say, oh, you're being toxic. I got big issues with that.
Yeah.
I've lost friends both in reality and online because of just that fact. And I had no care of even knowing these knuckleheads ever again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because
y'all may not know this. I actually own a movie theater. I'm sitting atop of it right now, much like a supervillain. And so I can tell you, and of course, I'm in a small town, so everybody knows I'm the king geek, right? Like I'm the, they know. They always ask me, so what'd you think of the latest, whatever the superhero movie is, or wizards or robots? And I can tell you that coming out of the theater, the audience loved Batman versus Superman and Man of Steel and Justice League. They did. And these are not, there's a few, hardcore comic readers sprinkled in there and all that. By and large, most of the people that went to see the movies, at least, in small conservative Texas town A, thought it was the bee's knees. they were like, finally a Superman that I can get behind. And you know, however I feel about that means all. They put their money down twice to see it. You know, that's kind of, there you go. And Warner knows that. You know, I love the fact that they would look at an $800 million return and consider that a failure. I just, you know, there's a point at which that money stops making sense.
It's Twilight Zone, Mark. It's Twilight Zone because for them, if it's not over $1 billion and going, then it's a failure because it's hubris, it's greed, it's gluttony, definitely. But it's a fact of everything now has to go bigger and better. And don't get me wrong, you have to reach for the stars. But 9 times out of 10, you're going to see a beautiful stratosphere. And you got to be able to be okay with that.
Yeah.
And with these guys, I don't know if it's the pressure, if they just got, you know, if they got a bunch of Gordon geckos who are running these organizations now who are just pretty much, you know, agents of Satan or whatever. But they need to get their balls back and they need to like really say, you know what, we're going to put out the stuff where we want. You either fund it or I'll get, you know, fund it. And this is the thing too. Some of these, and I throw this out to all directors. If the studios is not treating you guys the way you want to, crowdfund that sucker, do whatever you have to do independently to get the sucker to market.
Yeah.
Go to your local damn, you know, theaters, make deals with other theaters and get your product out because it's only going to get worse. And we're seeing it now with Warner. I mean, this is the issue with monopolies is that once you feed the monster, that's all it wants is more and more and more. It's no different than the Dave Matthews song, you know, Too Much. I love that song because that's where we are right now. He saw, you know, over 25 years ago, exactly where we would be right now. And that's exactly where we are. It's like we got Disney, ate up everything, Warner. And if Warner ain't careful, Sony's looking side-eye at them saying, I might want to buy you.
Yeah.
I could see that happening because it's never too much. It's really corporate empires. And unfortunately, what happened with empires? They crumble from the inside out.
I think the primary difference, first of all, point of order, Disney is the great Satan. Warner Brothers is just a pack of thieves.
There you go.
But Warner is actually old school. They're very old money, and they're still in a very parochial mindset. The way they're doing stuff, this decision to stream and release theatrically, that came from AT&T. That did not come from Warner. You know, they're very, and I don't mean this politically. I mean this as a mindset. They're a conservative, right?
Yeah.
Thinking place. Disney, I think when you said Disney made some, you know, missteps, I think the difference is that Disney's structure is younger, and especially where Marvel is concerned, they have a much tighter turning radius. It's easier for them to course correct because of how their schedule is set up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we don't have to wait 3 years for the next thing. We have to wait 6 months. And so they can make those changes faster, you know, and now they're you know, really paying attention to it. Warner has not ever figured out how to do that maneuvering at all. And so they're very much ledger oriented, they're bottom line. They're the people that go back and go, well, what did the last 4 Superman movies do? Okay, well then we obviously did something right because they made globally this much money. So we're gonna do what we always do with movies. And you know, if it's a romantic comedy, you can have 20 different fingers in the pie and nobody notices. You know, if it's, you know, if it's a mystery thriller, you know, nobody's going to care, so they can just make it. Unfortunately, for the tentpole movies, they've got a lot on the line. The only reason the Harry Potter movies did so well is because Rowling essentially put a clause in there that gave her some veto power. And
Absolutely.
they stood back and said, all right, well, we're just going to let you make these movies. And that's why they look the way they do.
Mark, let me tell you this, Mark. It was possibly the best marketing campaign I've seen outside of Star Wars and, any other, franchise ever, is that because I had no idea. My brothers knew about the series, but when that sucker came out and it's like, yeah, this is what's coming, I said, well, what is this? And now I'm looking at it and I'm saying, how many books? Well, they're almost done in this and this. And so you're seeing this multimedia pretty much like straight down the line. You got the books, you got the movies, you got the video games, you got all
candy,
these other things. Oh my God.
Toys.
Now, you got theme parks. I'm saying these guys are really going hard and strong about this. So I applaud that. And I'll be honest with you, with what they had for that, I don't want a continuation. The Potter age had its good day. Don't try to bring that back, because we've seen what happens when you start to bring stuff back and it don't actually, go gangbusters.
Yeah.
And then you have to go back to the mill. And I'm not going to, side eye a certain franchise, but that's what's happening right now.
James, you've been talking this whole time. I can't, you got to let somebody else have a thought, man. You can't monopolize the mic like that. I'm sorry, Nathan. He's been it's been rough since you left. It really has.
Well, sorry it took a few minutes longer than I thought it would, guys. But on the plus side, I found my wallet, which I thought I had lost, which is why I popped back into the room right after I left. I was looking for my wallet. So,
are you sure Batman didn't find it for you? I understand Kevin, and Beth have a thing. She might have just called and said, put the wallet in the chair,
See,
please.
that would be a lot more fun, Mark, if I knew that you didn't hate like all the animated stuff like from the 80s onwards.
I don't. I love Batman. Are you kidding me? I love Batman.
Oh, okay. Because you told me once that like it's all meant to sell toys, like all the cartoons from the 80s.
Yeah, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is meant to sell toys. Yeah. Masters of the Universe. Batman, the animated series, was the shit. Same thing with
the animated toys.
Yeah, totally, man. The first action figure from that I got was that giant ass man bat. With the wings that unfolded. That thing was beautiful. Oh, so good, man. Yeah, no, that's the DC animated stuff is the exception to all of that.
It's funny because I thought the Marvel animated stuff in the 90s was way better, but I like the animated stuff. But like X-Men was way better than Batman.
Well, we've talked about this before. How DC had these successful movies, but they didn't really have a lot of TV action going on. But the animated series sort of made up for it. Right. Whereas Marvel had TV and the movies, and none of it was good. And so we had to. It was like a buffet. We had to take some from over here and some from over here. But no, Batman. All the Bruce Timm Paul Dini stuff gets a pass because it's good all around, man. Yeah, no complaints.
And speaking of Superman, the Superman animated series, which doesn't get anywhere near as much love as Batman the animated series.
No, but it's fantastic. Yeah. Oh yeah.
I just never got the Superman I ever wanted, which was Nick Cage's Superman. I want that Superman.
You bite.
I didn't want it for years until I watched the documentary. And when I watched the documentary and saw just how over the top it was going to be, right? Like almost David Lynchian in its out there-ness. I was prepared to watch it just to see where it would go. Yeah. I wouldn't have poo-pooed it, but.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping at the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.